violation of a social media ban. Bolsonaro, who is accused of attempting a coup against his successor Lula da Silva, made a speech yesterday that quickly went viral on social media. He did not post the speech from his own account, although his sons and political allies did so. The Supreme Court Justice displayed a post from accounts on X, Instagram and Facebook with videos and images and text from Bolsonaro's speech to journalists in Congress. Gold is trading at $3,385.34 an ounce. The rand is at 17.61 to the dollar, 23.72 to the pound, 20.58 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $68.80 a barrel.
Looking at your roads, the N4 highway being a developing story right the way throughout the morning. It is still closed for recovery with heavy impact on roads throughout Pretoria North and Wonderboom. Lavender Road starting to ease down to 20 minutes that we're seeing getting into Pretoria North. Then there's an incident on the N1 southbound after Allendale Road. This is meaning that the left-hand lane is affected.
A cloudy day in store for Gauteng today. The temperatures will peak at highs between 17 and 19 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour, FlySafair is continuing with limited operations today as its pilots enter day 2 of their strike.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app. Walk for something greater in the 702 Walk the Talk, hosted by Freedom Park in the city of Tshwane. Get your tickets now on primemediaplus.com.
You're with Clement Manyathela
On 702.
Let's Walk the Talk, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app,
DSTV channel 856,
92.7 and 106 FM.
8 minutes after 9 o'clock. Dumelang, welcome to the Clement Manyathela Show on this Tuesday, the 22nd day of July. It's great to be in your company. Thank you for being with us here on 702. We always love being in your company, and I hope you're well this morning. Thank you. Hello. Thank you. If you're joining us on YouTube, go to the 702 YouTube page for you to watch and listen to the show at the very same time. President Cyril Ramaphosa has finally fired the Higher Education Minister, Nobuhle Nkabane. She was a disgrace, honestly. She has shown belligerent attitude towards Parliament. She has shown Parliament the middle finger. She has shown the President the middle finger and the rest of South Africa. I have never seen such political arrogance. And you know what she did yesterday? She sent out a statement thanking the President for trusting her with the responsibility to lead the higher education sector, and said it was a privilege to serve in such an important department. She did that before the President could even announce his decision. And the impression she was seemingly trying to create is that she resigned, which is not the case. She was fired. But she still disrespected the President by going ahead of him and telling South Africans that she's out before the President could do that. That's not protocol. So she seemingly rebelled even towards the end by releasing this statement before the President even makes the announcement. I mean, the level of political arrogance this woman has displayed is shocking, even to her own comrades. And yesterday I actually tweeted, well done to the DAs, Karabo Kakao, and to the EFF's Sihle Lonzi and other members of parliament who were pushing for accountability, including the MK Party, which, by the way, was one of the first organizations to write to the chair of the committee about the leaked list of SETA board chairs. But more importantly, I think, thanks to you as South Africans for expressing your outrage. Thank you for making your voice heard, for calling in on our shows and expressing that outrage. I think that's part of the pressure that we put for the right thing to be done. So what's your reaction to this decision by the president? He was decisive this time around. I would have loved this action to be taken much earlier, but I will take this. And I'm grateful the president has listened and acted. What are your thoughts? 011-883-0702. You can send your WhatsApps on 072-702-1702. Also, how are you being affected by this Fly SAFE pilot strike? Or Fly SA Fair pilot strike, whichever way you pronounce it. I see that the company will be resuming talks this week with Solidarity. But this strike has disrupted dozens of flights. I mean, this is the country's largest low-cost carrier. They hold about 60% or so of market share. In fact, it's been regarded as a pillar of regional mobility and consumer affordability. So when there's a strike at Fly SA Fair or Fly SA Fair, trust that the impact will be felt. So how have you been impacted? Have you had to make alternative arrangements? Please give us a call or send us a WhatsApp voice note. Congratulations as well to Musi Maimane and Malusi Gigaba. Okay, let's do that again. To Dr. Musi Maimane and Dr. Malusi Gigaba. They are now PhD holders. Musi Maimane graduated with a PhD in public management and governance. So he's Dr. Maimane to you, my friend. Malusi Gigaba graduated with a PhD in public administration. So he's now a doctor of philosophy in public administration. It's so encouraging to see, remember how we would also get excited when Julius Malema graduates or other politicians. It's incredible. It's incredible to see them do that and advance their studies like that. So congratulations to them. Congratulations to you as well. If you have graduated or you are graduating this season, we are really, truly, truly inspired. Between 10 and 11 o'clock, we're going to be in conversation with the SACP's Secretary General, Solly Mapaila. As you know, the SACP has contested its first by-election since it resolved to no longer contest under the ANC banner. They contested Ward 13 in Polokwane last week after the ward became vacant following a council decision to expel the EFF councillor Mafiwa Leballo for misconduct. So we'll talk to the SACP about this decision, but broadly about other issues around the alliance. At 11 o'clock, we're going to do our World of Work feature. Today, we're discussing whistleblowing in the workplace, the conducive environment that companies should create for employees to blow the whistle and also to be protected after blowing that whistle. And I want to know if you've ever blown a whistle in the workplace. What happened afterwards? Were you targeted? Were you protected? Knowing your workplace now, would you even ever do it? That's a chat at 11 o'clock. 11:30, we do our health and wellness feature. And today we're focusing on understanding epilepsy in children. That's the show coming up over the next 3 hours.
Clement Manyathela, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
All right, 13 minutes now after 9 o'clock. I'm going to come to your calls and your WhatsApps in a moment. I want to bring in the man we spoke to yesterday before the president decided to fire the higher education minister, Nobuhle Nkabane. We spoke to Nobuhle, who is the chair of the higher education committee. I know he stepped out of a meeting for us, so I just want to quickly bring him on to understand what's the way forward now, and then I'll come to your calls on WhatsApp. Staboho, thank you so much for quickly chatting to us. Hi.
Good morning, Clement. Thanks for having us. Good morning to your listeners.
Okay, so the president has now decided to fire this higher education minister. She was supposed to be appearing before the committee today. What happens now?
Yeah, you'll remember that she was supposed to appear with 3 other panelists and the Director General. And the panelists were supposed to come read their letters into the records. They are all here. We are just waiting for the Director General, who arrived from China last night and flew in this morning. He has told me that he's just stuck in traffic. Traffic in Cape Town is a mess. So we'll start very soon. The minister, the former minister, is not here. No, she's no longer required to be here. So I spoke to our legal team. Our legal team informed me that because the minister is no longer the minister, we don't have to read the panelists' letters into the records to establish the facts, because then, as I said yesterday, we'll then needed to bring the minister to get her side of the story so that we deal with that legal principle called audi alteram patent that would have helped us to then conclude on whether the minister would have misled, lied or not to Parliament. But we can't get to that. So what will happen now is that we're going to thank the panelists for coming, and then we'll continue the probe with the Director General, because that is what a bone of contention would have been. Some of them, or at least the DDG, would have said the Director General had written to the staff in the department, informed them that our meeting has been cancelled when our meeting was not cancelled. So we will continue with the DG.
Okay, so the probe will continue with the DG. There's a lot of evidence that you already have in your disposal as the committee, not only from Advocate Terimutau, but from the other people, including the former minister's chief of staff, who said it's not true that we were people who advised her, who were on that independent panel. So what happens if, after your conversation with the Director General at the end of this probe, and having assessed all the evidence and information that was provided to you, you then conclude that this former minister had lied? What happens next?
So we will not be able to go that route. According to legal, we will not try her in her absence. So a portfolio committee on higher education and training is only responsible to deal with or to do oversight over the ministry and the Department of Higher Education and Training. Dr. Nobuhle is no longer the Minister of Higher Education and Training, so we will no longer be continuing. But other committees of Parliament, committees, they can continue with their probe because it's still a member of Parliament. But us, unfortunately, we can't do a probe over a former minister, Blake Nzamande, for an example, or a former minister, Dr. Nkabane. We only do oversight over those who are here. If tomorrow there's some evidence that we need from Dr. Nkabane in her capacity as the minister, we can call her to come and bring, but not to try her. Unfortunately, that's what.
Okay, but the ethics committee, ethics committee can continue with this probe about whether or not she has lied to Parliament.
Yes, the ethics committee is well within its right to continue. I think they are continuing.
All right. Thank you so much for speaking to us. I think that's important because resignation doesn't erase the need for investigation into potential wrongdoing, especially if there are allegations of misconduct like that or illegal activity. If this woman has lied under oath, that's perjury. And she's got to be held accountable for it. 18 minutes now after 10 o'clock, after 9.
Your voice,
Your station.
your open line
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela.
on 702.
Good morning, Clement and 702 listeners. My submission this morning, I'd love to congratulate Melo Sekigaba for obtaining his doctorate. I think he is an inspiration to many of us. Thank you, Mbuyiseni.
Morning, Clement Manyathela and 702 listeners. I think the decision is welcome of the Minister of Higher Education being relieved of her duties, but this is no credit to the President. He was put under tremendous pressure to take this. This should have happened like he did with that Minister of the DA that went to US, Deputy minister. He was quick to act on that one. But here, he had to juggle around. But I think we understand now is because of the links and the deployment and the ANC, etc., etc. So there's no credit that must go to the president on this one. Thank you.
So Clement, taking my morning jog, I had to just pause and celebrate with my brother. I'm glad she's gone. Oh my God. I think she didn't understand that she's a public servant, Kim. She didn't understand that, you understand? But more than anything, I think flowers must go to the committee as well. DA guys, EFF guys, How, and the other guy from EFF. Stellar job, guys. Awesome. I hope the tone is set for how committees ought to operate, and key takeaways be learned by the provincial structures and the municipal structures to say in committees, this is how you hold people accountable. What I look forward to see, Clem, is who now hires this lady with this reputation. Shame on them now. Who hires this lady with this level of arrogance and incompetence? Cheers. Thanks, Clem.
Good morning, Clement. Good morning to fellow listeners. Clement, I don't know, man. Remember, this lady was supposed to face the portfolio committee today, with regards to her appearing before the committee 2 times now. And now yesterday, we are made to believe that she was just fired. I don't know. I'm just thinking this was just a strategy by the president trying to move her away from, facing and accounting for lying and all of those. Now it simply means, does it mean that she won't have to account now?
Look, the probe is going to continue with the ethics committee. What Letsie says at the Letsie is that they're not going to continue. They're going to continue with the probe with the DG, but the legal advice they've received is that you can't really try the minister without her coming through to appear before the committee because she's no longer a minister. But the ethics committee will continue with that probe about whether or not she's lied to Parliament. I think there's enough evidence for that committee to make a ruling. That's very important. Just because someone leaves, resigns, or is fired doesn't mean that that's where accountability stops. So even in this case, I can't wait to hear what the ethics committee will do. And I know normally their investigations or probes take time, but I really hope that they get to a point where this woman, again, will be used as an example to these ministers who often demonstrate arrogance towards a body like Parliament that's constitutionally obligated to hold them accountable.
Great job to the President, Clement. I love it that ultimately Nkabane is gone. That woman was frustrating, I tell you. That woman was frustrating each time you watch her. It's just that now, my celebration was short-lived when I saw President bringing in another questionable character like Nobuhle. I mean, with such a questionable past and, of course, corruption that she's been involved in some municipalities in Durban, then I was like, dude, you can't send away or dismiss or fire Nkabane and bring another Nkabane in. So now that's kind of, it just deflated my spirit a little bit. But after all, well done, President, at long last.
Yeah, look, I don't know. Can you just direct me to the corruption involving Nomusa Dube Ngube? I don't remember reading anything to that effect when she was the premier of KwaZulu-Natal. Please direct me to that. I've not seen that. I know that she was one of the people that were appointed to the SETA boards by this minister who's now out. But I still don't understand the objection to her as the deputy minister. I don't understand why there's an objection to her based on the fact that her name was included there by the minister to be one of the SETA board chairpersons. So maybe help me understand that a little bit more. But I'd like to know also about her track record. When you say that she was involved in corruption in KZN, which corruption was that? Because I don't remember that. I've had Nomusa Dube on the show several times. And often when I've heard her, people who come from KZN have often praised her leadership from the time when she was premier. Maybe I've missed it. Please direct me to that part where she has a questionable past. What exactly is it that she was involved in as far as corruption is concerned? As for her name being part of the SETA board chairs, I don't understand that objection. Because the issue here has never so much been about, every single person on that list is problematic. The issue here was the list of SETA board chairs was riddled with politicians. But you need board chairpersons who are independent. That's why the concern is, how do you have Gwede Mantashe's son as a board chair? You've got Gwede Mantashe's advisor as a board chair. And then you've got all these other politicians to be board chairs of SETAs, which are supposed to be these independent institutions that are helping us with skills development, with helping with eradicating unemployment. Doesn't necessarily mean there are people that are incompetent on that list. In fact, if you look at the entire list, there are other people who were suggested to be board chairs who are very much capable of doing the job. So I really don't understand the objection to Nomusa Dube being appointed the deputy minister when in fact that's what the president does. Take politicians in the ANC and in the DA and in the IFP and in the UDM and all these other parties in the DNU and appoint them to cabinet or to be deputy ministers. Yeah, let me know what questionable past Nomusa Dube has that maybe I have missed.
Good morning, Clement. As we always say in Afrikaans, the achter ons kom ook in die kraal. Finally, the president has come into the kraal where we all wanted him, but it took so long. I'm happy that Nobuhle Nkabane is gone. He must do the same with the rest of the other crew that are in the same stable of breaking all the parliamentary ethics. Stay here. Cheers. Bye.
Hi, Clem. Tabo here in Swani. With regard to the firing of the Minister of Higher Education and Training, Dr. Nkabane, okay, yeah, the president did the right thing, but I think the mere fact that she missed the meeting on Friday, I think she knew that this was going to happen. Hence, she chose those dates that she'll come to Parliament and all these things. She knew that she was going to be fired, or she already got the message that she was going to be fired. And yeah, but anyway, we welcome this development, and then hopefully higher education will be in good shape in her absence. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Look, some people are trying to suggest that this has got everything to do with what's going to happen tomorrow. Remember, there's the appropriations bill that's supposed to be passed, which is one of the two crucial parts of the budget. I mean, without the appropriations bill, then forget it. So, and the DA, remember, had taken a position of not going to be supporting certain individual budgets of ministers like Nkabane's ministry or department. So there were questions around what position the DA was going to take during the vote tomorrow for the appropriations bill. And yes, there was a suggestion that if you get BOSA and other parties that are really, there are other parties, the smaller parties that are not so much in the GNU in that sense, if you get them to support the appropriations bill, there would still be enough numbers. But you also didn't want to risk that, because if you don't pass the appropriations bill, there are really, really serious consequences. So, I mean, I saw someone suggesting this morning that, maybe the president acted because, in fact, it wasn't someone, it was what I read on News 24. They are trying to suggest that the president acted because of pressure from the Democratic Alliance. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I really don't think that's the case. I think the president is just fed up. I think he probably just wanted Parliament to deal with this first, like allow process, because he's often always allowed sort of process to unfold. So he wanted maybe Parliament to investigate her and ultimately make a decision on her behavior, and then he would come and act afterwards. But she has disrespected the president so many times. I mean, the president stopped her from flying to China last week Sunday. Was it last week or 2 weeks ago on Sunday? Apparently she was already there at the airport. The president said, "You're not getting on that flight." Which is why a lot of us thought maybe she's about to be fired back then. Last week Friday, she was supposed to be in Parliament. She didn't go. She instead went to some event in the Eastern Cape, was busy planting trees, even taking videos. Like, belligerent attitude towards Parliament. Towards the president as well, her boss. And I just think the president was fed up. How do you explain keeping a person like that who consistently just shows a middle finger, shows arrogance like that? Yeah, I will take it. As I say, I would have loved this to happen much earlier, but we're dealing with President Cyril Ramaphosa here. Earlier is something completely different to him. So I'll take this. Thank you, President, for acting and for also listening to South Africans who have said, this woman doesn't seem to be interested in representing us. It's 9:30. More of your calls and WhatsApps after the latest in Eyewitness News headlines. Fiso, hi.
Thanks, Clement. Good morning. Police have arrested a man suspected to be involved in the murder of Ekurhuleni Chief Auditor Mpho Mafole. Mafole was shot while driving on the R23 highway in Kempton Park earlier this month. At the time of his death, he was investigating a mysterious 2 billion rand revenue shortfall from the Metro's coffers. The Senzo Miua trial resumes in the Pretoria High Court today with the hope of making progress after proceedings were delayed over the wearing of cushioned irons. Yesterday, one of the accused, Mthobisi Mncube, refused to come to court with unpadded leg irons, claiming they cause him pain. And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has confirmed that his country and Russia will hold a new round of peace talks in Istanbul. Zelensky proposed fresh talks at the weekend, days after US President Donald Trump threatened Russia with severe sanctions if there was no ceasefire between Moscow and Kyiv within the next 50 days. And those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 10 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
In your roads at 9:30, there is an update on the N4 East. Bumper-to-bumper traffic remains in the Onastapur area. This is between Roslyn and Bonnecourt, but it is rolling once again. You're going to be slowed down all the way to 42 minutes that are being added to your travel time, so you're advised to avoid. Otherwise, there's a crash on the N3 southbound. This is at the Elands interchange, affecting the N12 west. That's where I'm going to be leaving it. Got another update coming through, so if I've missed anything, at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Africa Milani.
Weekday mornings,
4 to 6.
What is the purpose of this surcharge? What was the city intending to use the money for?
When the budget was presented, these tariff charges weren't something that was mentioned up front. That is something which we gauged by engagement yesterday with some of the residents of Tembisa. They spoke directly to the fact of the lack of responsiveness by the current ANC, EFF and Action SA coalition, specifically when they presented the city's budgets through the IDP consultation process.
Brandon Pretorius is the DA's caucus leader.
Africa Milani.
4 to 6 on 702.
Mzansi, for as little as R5, you can play Powerball for an estimated 84 million rand jackpot this Tuesday. Play Powerball for an estimated 84 million rand jackpot today, and you could be celebrating multi-millions. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120*7529# for USSD. Panda Push-Up Play. Players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. Ituba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
At the heart of global conversations shaping our future, Africa's voice is more important than ever. As proud lead sponsor of the B20, the Standard Bank Group is honored to showcase the continent's growth, partnerships, and potential on the world stage. Because driving Africa's growth isn't just our ambition, it's our purpose. Tune in every Monday from 3 p.m. for the Standard Bank B20 In Brief for key insights and updates around the B20. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
So, how did it go?
Oh, just perfect. The drive, so comfortable. The panoramic sunroof, my highlight.
But what about the date?
It was nice, but the Jolion Pro, next level.
Sometimes the drive is the best part. The Haval Jolien Pro from 4,299 per month. Visit gwm.coza for T's and C's and to book a test drive. Go with more. Go with GWM.
From 24 to 27 July, Decorex Joburg returns to the Sandton Convention Centre, now spanning 5 halls. Explore over 300 brands, shop exclusive show specials, and discover the latest in interiors, kitchens, bathrooms, and luxury finishes. Experience live interactive demos, expert-led talks, and the Handmade Africa Design Market. There's something for every style, space, and home. Book your tickets now at decorex.co.za or at the door.
Your voice,
Your station.
your open line
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela.
on 702.
25 minutes before 10 o'clock. This is the 702 open line. We are taking your calls on 011-883-0702. The WhatsApp line is 072-702-1702. We've been asking you about your reaction to the decision by the president to finally fire the Higher Education Minister, Nobuhle Nkabane. I have asked you if you've been affected by this SAFE pilot strike. I mean, there are so many flights that have been disrupted. Have you been affected? Have you had to cancel your flights? Have you received your refund? Have you had to make alternative plans? But also, congratulations are coming through this morning for Musi Maimane and Malusi Kigaba, who are now doctors. Musi Maimane graduated yesterday with a PhD in public management and governance. Malusi Kigaba graduated with a PhD in public administration. So he's now a doctor of philosophy in public administration. So congratulations to them and to you as well. If you have graduated or you are graduating this season, we're really, really inspired. So show them some love if you want. Let's go to your WhatsApps now.
Morning, Clemmy. Yeah, I'm Joburg. Me, I knew she was gone. By the time she was recalled from the trip to China, I knew that she was gone. So it's just that the president took long time to act. But I knew from that moment that she was gone when they recalled her from the trip to China, DP. So at least now, the arrogance is gone. So, but the NC are giving us mediocre. They're giving us mediocre, man. Yeah. Anyway, great show. Have a great day.
Good morning, Clement. Good riddance to Nobuhle Nkabane. Wow, she was really distasteful. I think that we have to thank the GNU for this because the committee members did a fantastic job in pushing for accountability, and that the charges laid against her, the minister, for lying to Parliament should still be pursued. This should also encourage us as citizens that we cannot go back to a majority rule party, because had it been back when the ANC was majority, I doubt the minister would have been fired. Once again, great job, and thanks for the good show. Dikezo in Delta Freedom Park.
Hi, Clement. Sabelo here in Midrand. It's good that the minister is gone, but it took the president too long to do so, and it shows that our president doesn't have, backbone, and, they're protecting each other there. And I think the reason why he delayed, it's because, he himself, has his own skeletons. So, but kudos to the DA. I mean, they've done stellar work. I mean, yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Morning, Clement and the listeners. I think, yes, we do welcome what President Ramaphosa has done with regards to Nkabane. But I think on the issue that she was just, disrespecting the president and just being arrogant, it's because of accountability. This is what the president and his party have created, people who don't really give a damn, because they know that in 3 months' time, she's going to get another position somewhere else, So if the president wants respect from all these ministers, he needs to set an example. When you're out, you're out. Not, like a chessboard that you move from this square, then, 3 moves down the line, you're in another square. It's, this is why she was like that. She couldn't care less. She knows, her food is still going to be on her table. This is Nadis here. Thank you.
Your voice,
Your station.
Your open line.
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
20 minutes before 10 o'clock. Let's bring in Vincent Magwenya, who speaks on behalf of the president, joining us on the line. Vincent, thanks for your time. Hi.
Good morning, Clement, and good morning to your listeners.
What took the president so long?
Well, Clement, we can opine on that, but the reality is that the president always seeks to act in fairness. In this particular case, he gave Minister Nkabane the opportunity to explain herself, and one could say to even look at corrective measures. Unfortunately, that was not to be. Misleading Parliament, amongst other issues, became a grave concern for the president, and ultimately he had to exercise his prerogative and act as it did.
What was the last straw for him?
Well, the issue has been of concern for quite some time, ever since that unfortunate appearance by the former minister. And the president had been applying his mind and processing the issue. I guess the last bit, when the minister could not present herself to Parliament during a scheduled hearing, escalated matters, but it had been an issue that the president has been concerned about and was processing.
Is that why the president had stopped her from going to China? And I suppose the reason I'm asking about the timeline is when the president took that decision then, 2 weeks ago, we thought, okay, he's preparing to make that decision, and then it was another 2 weeks before he could act yesterday.
Well, the matter was still being processed when the president decided to stop the former minister from going to China. I think it was appropriate of the president to do so, considering that the matter was being processed and the matter was coming to finality, so to speak.
Okay. What was she fired or did she resign? Because she released a statement before the president could release a statement announcing his decision. Can you just clarify that for us? And what does protocol actually say in a situation where the president removes you from his cabinet? Like, do you communicate before the president even communicates that decision?
Well, that was an unfortunate departure from the established protocol, Clement. The protocol is when the president makes a decision about an appointment, whether he's appointing a person or is removing a person, the onus to communicate that decision is left to the president. Up until such time the president has communicated, no one is to communicate the president's decision. And so that was unfortunate, but in essence, she was removed, or you could say she was fired, yes.
All right. Vincent Magwenya, thank you for your time. That's the spokesperson for the presidency. Just chatting to us about really what happened before this decision was ultimately made yesterday. About time.
702 delivers
on the matters that matter to you.
My name is Orina, and what I love about 702 is the Clement Manyathela Show. I didn't think that I would see Clement today.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts,
so we can deliver more on what matters to you.
702 listens.
Let's walk the talk.
Ready for business insurance where you always get something out? Well, Business Outsurance are experts in business insurance for engineering firms, real estate agencies, auditing firms, and more. Over 100,000 businesses across various industries trust them. Switch to Business Outsurance today and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. Get a quick and easy quote today. Call 08600 60,000 or visit outsurance.co.za. Licensed insurance FSP. T's and C's and information online.
The new Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7, our thinnest, lightest, and most powerful foldable yet. Open up your world to an ultra-immersive full view of the expansive screen and move effortlessly with its ultra-sleek and ultra-slim design. Pre-order now and double up your storage. 512 gigabytes for the price of 256 gigabytes. Offer valid until 31 July 2025. Join the Unfold Club with the new Galaxy Z Fold 7. T's and C's apply.
To walk the talk is to turn words into meaningful actions. And it's what we at 702 are committed to doing every day. We're also committed to following the rules set out by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission's Code of Conduct to give you balanced programming, fair comment, and accurate news. But if we stumble along the way and you feel we're not living up to the code, let us know on comment@702.co.za. And if after that you're still not happy, you can direct your complaint in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission, PO Box 412365, Craig Hall 2024. For more, visit bccsa.co.za. Your voice,
Your station.
your open line
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela.
on 702.
15 minutes before 10 o'clock, Benedict says, Clement, the former minister Nkabane messed up and she knows it. She knew that the president was going to fire her sooner or later. She didn't know how to explain her actions to the portfolio committee, and she did everything to avoid that. That's why she decided to give last week's planned portfolio committee meeting a miss. That's a message there from Benny in Mahikeng. Yeah, Benny. And I mean, imagine if she had appeared today. What is she going to say? She was probably going to dig this hole deeper for herself. She was going to lie more, probably. Because how do you avoid misleading Parliament and wanting to insist that your so-called independent panel was independent when, in fact, even your own chief of staff, the very same people that are in your office, some of them are telling you that they're telling Parliament that, no, we were not part of this independent panel. So, minister or former minister, who advised you? Who advised you to appoint those SETA chairpersons? Who advised you to go and get Gweda's son and Gweda's advisor and all those other politicians to be chairs of SETAs? Because she had to withdraw those appointments. So who advised her? Because clearly this so-called independent panel didn't, because even the chair says, Aibo, I wasn't involved in that. She just included a random name of someone who had never sat or adjudicated on any meeting that advised the minister on these SETA board chairs.
I think let's give credit where it's due to the economic freedom fighters, especially to Honorable Sihlelozi and how they've conducted themselves in Parliament. They are the real main opposition in Parliament because we see that demonstration and we are seeing the result. It wasn't fashionable when Sihlelozi was removed from Parliament by the security structure of Parliament, and it was very, very embarrassing. But today we are celebrating and giving credit to the DA, which is also in the GNU, which is just a little bit weird for me. So congratulations to the EFF. We now see why you are the main opposition in Parliament, and keep it up. We are watching this as South Africans, and we really, really appreciate your presence in Parliament. Keep on doing the great work. Fiso and Richards Bay.
Hi, Clement. Clement, my input is that we must be very careful of thanking the president for anything or giving credit to the president for anything. Because with the politics of the ANC, you'll be surprised as that they didn't want to let her go. But politics. So the president didn't want to let her go. But politics. He was forced to. Thank you. Bye.
Hi, Clement. This is Jay from Sanson. Clement, I totally disagree with you. If you talk of process, then why wasn't the process taken into consideration when the DA guy was dismissed? The thingy with Cyril and the ANC is just about moving parts and protecting each other. He has no interest of the citizens of this country. It's about the ANC and the people within the ANC. So this is just one of those things that it's terrible that we have a president that doesn't consider the citizens and thinks about his pockets and his cronies within the ANC. Thanks.
Clement, good morning. I trust you well. You know, the president has set a precedent by not firing the minister from the beginning. Other ministers would want to be given a chance for their waywardness. The president has shot himself in the foot, unfortunately. Anonymous.
Morning, Clement. Morning to the 702 listeners. Clement, again, we are shown by our president that we actually are leaderless. The bravado in the minister just trampling all over his toes just shows that this man is not respected even within his own cabinet. Yeah, this is actually sad more than anything. I mean, it took so many parliamentarians crying out for the president to act, and even when he did act, he acted so softly. And yeah, thanks, Clement. Max from the West.
Good day, Clement and your listeners. I am delighted that the minister is gone. Also, I hope that this action will then be transposed to other ministers who have also been implicated, that the president takes action on those as well, i.e. Minister Simelane, Minister Mchunu, Minister Mantashe, and all of them. But I know I'm just wishful thinking on my part. But I am frustrated with the president. The president takes forever to deal with issues. I think the kind of crisis, the times that we find ourselves in, the crisis that we find ourselves in as a country, it requires someone that's a lot more decisive, and the president simply isn't. We are constantly told that he's applying his mind. I mean, the guy has to be the slowest thinker ever. Yo! Right.
Yeah, and it gets frustrating many times. I actually said, was it last week when I said, the president will eventually act against her. He's just waiting for more and more pressure, which is so disappointing that you're going to act when South Africans are screaming at the top of their lungs and politicians and are coming out releasing statements and criminal charges are being laid. It's always like that. And even with, I've said the same even with Zweli Mkhize. When Zweli Mkhize was the Minister of Health, and the Digital Vibes expose happened, and we were consistently talking about what is the president going to do? Why is he still waiting and not doing anything when evidence is so overwhelming about how close the minister is to this woman who has seemingly become at the center of the Digital Vibes scandal? And then what happened? The president then says the minister has decided to resign. Even when you could tell this thing was being managed politically at the time. You needed to portray it like that as opposed to take action, because there was going to be a political consequence, especially if you look at the dynamics in the ANC and Zweli Mkhize as one of the leaders coming from KwaZulu-Natal and the conferences that were ahead, etc., etc. So my experience of this president is that often he waits. And I know on his side, his people will say, no, but he's consulting. He's not just sitting. But it appears like he waits until there's so much pressure that he can't just simply avoid it. Like there has to be so much. Remember when children were dying in townships after eating food that's potentially poisoned. How many times did we talk about it on air? Where is the president? Why hasn't he? I mean, how many kids died? Over 40 or so? There's so many children who died. In any other country, that becomes a health emergency. And when there was more and more pressure, then he acts. And sometimes you wonder, what were you waiting for? What took you so long? What's changed? Ooh, it really gets frustrating sometimes. But as I said, I'll take it. Better late than never, don't they say?
Hi, Clement, the team. Firstly, I would like to congratulate Maimane and Malusi Gaba for their PhDs. The question remains, will they remain in politics or will they be in academia? Because as a research-based qualification, I think their contributions will be needed in academia than in politics. Thanks, David.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, Malusi Gaba is still working for Lutuli House, the ANC. Musi Maimane still leads BOSA, is a member of parliament. I don't see them quitting their political careers, especially because they're still so young. Like Musi Maimane still has ambitions I think at some point, we may see him minister, especially if we're going to go on this trajectory where we don't have a one dominating party. If we are going to have this sort of setup of a government where there's a coalition of sorts, even at national government, I really do see Musi at some point being one of the ministers, I think. And as far as Malusi Gigaba is concerned, and this was someone that was seen as the future president of the ANC until, of course, the Guptas happened and the videos and and all the drama that unfolded. But the app, in fact, Julius Malema tweeted something. I think he tweeted a picture of Malusi Gigaba and says, "Congratulations, President," or something. I'll try find that for you. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is there are some people who still see him as a possible future leader of the African National Congress. Because he's a smart politician and he's a clever man. Ooh, he was just entangled in so much drama and controversy and was involved in some weird stuff. But this is also South Africa, but this is more the ANC. There are many people who have been involved in nasty things that somehow managed to reinvent themselves. And whether Malusi Gigaba is going to be able to do that is really a question at the top of my mind. Let's wait and see. It's 5 minutes before 10.
Herschel Gibbs here with more than just a crypto ad. Crypto payments are now live on 10Bet. And there's more. Download the app, deposit, and get an extra 5% in cash. The future of betting, faster, safer, and smoother. Play now at 10bet.co.za. 10Bet is a licensed betting operator and supports responsible gambling. No persons under the age of 18 shall be permitted to bet. Betting can be addictive. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counselling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710.
Dear Journal, trying to be an adult day 3731. I'm really struggling to explain my parents to my therapist. Might send him to live with them so he can see for himself. What if he ends up in therapy too? Wait, what if they love him more than me?
Finally learning about mental health. Get covered at pineapple.co.za. It's convenient and like 19 Rand a day, so it's 100% the insurance for you. Underwritten by Old Mutual Alternative Risk Transfer Insurer Limited, licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP. Premiums are risk profile dependent.
From 24 to 27 July, Decorex Joburg returns to the Sandton Convention Center, now spanning 5 halls. Explore over 300 brands, shop exclusive show specials, and discover the latest in interiors, kitchens, bathrooms, and luxury finishes. Experience live interactive demos, expert-led talks, and the Handmade Africa Design Market. There's something for every style, space, and home. Book your tickets now at decorex.co.za or at the door.
Your voice,
Your station.
your open line
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela.
on 702.
3 minutes before 10 o'clock.
Clement Manyathela, morning. Cyril runs his business in a very snail pace. And he's in charge of an entire country. But when he runs his business, he runs it in a very snail pace. We don't need such an individual. South Africa is a fast moving country. We don't need someone who will drag his feet before making serious decisions about the country. I'm still boggled about these people who still vote ANC. It really boggles my mind. I'd like to remain anonymous. Thanks.
Yeah, Jerome says, Clement, the way you chuckle after saying Gigaba's videos, yeah. But Jerome, you know what happened there. Oh, another one is asking on the WhatsApp line, Clement, did Jacob Zuma ever fire a minister for wrongdoing? I don't remember. Does anybody remember that? A case where the former president Jacob Zuma fired. I know he's reprimanded someone. I think there are cases where some minister was found to be in the wrong, and the recommendation was that that minister has to be reprimanded. And the president said, good morning or good evening, and I'm paraphrasing here, when a minister mang, consider yourself reprimanded. Or you are duly reprimanded. It was just like that. And then the country moved on. So I don't have a specific case that comes to the top of my mind. But also, you know, politicians protect each other. Remember when Mosiviwe Mapisa Nkula took a whole government jet and put her comrades on it to go to a meeting in Zimbabwe. Took Bo Ace Magashule, Bo Lindiwe, was it Lindiwe Zulu at the time? I think she was the head of the subcommittee on international relations. And they went all the way to Zimbabwe. And when it was found that the minister did wrong, what happened? She was reprimanded, and I think her salary was docked for a month or a couple of months. So, yeah, it's politicians always protect each other. They always talk about political expediency. They want us to believe that they exist because they want to solve our problems. They exist because they care about our well-being, and they want to push for what's best for us. But believe that at your own peril. Politicians exist because they're after power. That's what I've come to learn after so many years of speaking to a lot of them and reading about a lot of them and engaging with a lot of them. But hey, if you have found a politician you trust, good luck. It's 10 o'clock.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Sfiso Zulu. Police have arrested a man suspected to be involved in the murder of Ekurhuleni Chief Auditor Mpho Mafule. Mafule was shot in Kempton Park earlier this month while he was on his way home from work. He had been investigating a mysterious 2 billion rand revenue shortfall from the Metro's electricity accounts. Tabiso Goba reports.
Gauteng police spokesperson Dumakatso Nobuhle says the unnamed 40-year-old suspect was arrested by police on Sunday. She says police are also looking for his alleged co-conspirator.
The team is also looking for a second suspect by the name of Hlanganane Agrippa Mwango after a warrant of arrest was issued for him by the court. The police urged Mwango to hand himself over to the nearest police station.
Mpho Mafule had only been working for 3 months as Ekurhuleni municipality's head of forensic audits. Ekurhuleni mayor says prior to his death, Mafule had submitted an interim report of what possibly could have led to the Metro losing about 2 billion rand from its electricity revenue. Tabiso Goba, Eyewitness News.
The woman accused of murdering her 11-year-old son, Jaden Lee Meek, is set to return to the Roodepoort Magistrates Court for her bail application today. Tiffany Meek has been in police custody for a little over a week since her arrest earlier this month. The NPA says incriminating evidence was uncovered at her flats, which she shared with her only child. Meek has maintained she has nothing to do with her son's death. Ndozo Kumalo reports.
Amid calmer court proceedings, the court heard about what detectives had found at the scene where Jaden Lee Meek's body was found. Sergeant Lebodiko told the courts about the evidence they discovered and with gasp of disbelief by Tiffany Nicole Meek. Diko had stated that his findings show that the child was injured and killed at home.
On the forehead, a cut on the forehead and one on the chin. Then a case of murder given the injuries that were seen was opened and the crime scene role players were called.
Meek, however, claims the evidence which was presented had been altered. More details are expected to be revealed in today's proceedings. Ndozo Kumalo, Eyewitness News.
The Senzo trial resumes in the Pretoria High Court with the hope of making progress after proceedings were delayed over the wearing of cushioned leg irons. Yesterday, one of the accused, Mthobisi Mncube, refused to come to court with unpadded leg irons, claiming they cause him pain. The court heard that the Correctional Services boss gave a directive that the cushions should not be worn after an inmate escaped earlier this month from prison. Khomotso Modisa reports.
Mthobisi Mncube refused to continue with court proceedings yesterday until the issue of his leg irons being cushioned was addressed. His lawyer, Advocate Charles Mnisi, told the court that he's in pain caused by the iron rubbing against his ankles and he could not concentrate.
I am not willing to validate what he is going through by simply standing up here and pretend as if nothing is happening. Mr. Mncube is all right with him. If this court were to say that this trial should proceed despite the complaints that he's raising, then I am going to request that I be excused from representing Mr. Mncube.
After a lengthy adjournment, Correctional Services eventually agreed to allow the accused to wear the cushions on their ankles, but this had resulted in an entire court day being lost. State Advocate George Baloyi told the court that he has 2 more witnesses to call to the stand, which he hopes to do this morning. Khomzo Modise, Eyewitness News, Pretoria.
And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has confirmed that his country and Russia will hold a new round of peace talks in Istanbul. Zelensky proposed fresh talks at the weekend, days after US President Donald Trump threatened Russia with severe sanctions if there was no ceasefire between Moscow and Kyiv within 50 days. Washington has also pledged new weapons for the Ukrainian military after Russia intensified attacks. This week's talks will be yet another attempt to bring an end to the war that has been ongoing for more than 3 years. Gold is trading at $3,386.10 an ounce. The rand is at 17.64 to the dollar, 23.77 to the pound, 20.62 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $68.85 a barrel.
In your roads, still the N4 East is an issue. Bumper-to-bumper traffic in the Onderstepoort area. This is between Roslyn and Bonnecourt. 22 minutes that it has gone down to. There's a crash on the N3 southbound. This is at Elands Interchange, affecting the N12 West. And then an incident on the N1 northbound at New Ramp, or should I say New Road Ramp. That is to New Road itself. For now, that's where I'm going to be leaving it.
A cloudy day in store for Gauteng today. The temperatures will peak at highs between 17 and 19 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. Police have arrested a man suspected to be involved in the murder of Ekurhuleni Chief Auditor Mpho Mafule.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
What are the matters that matter to you?
702 listens.
You're with Clement Manyathela
On 702.
Let's walk the talk. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856.
92.7 and 106 FM.
Six minutes after 10 o'clock. Dumelang, welcome to the second hour of the Clement Manyathela Show. Thank you for staying with us here on 702. Thank you for your calls, WhatsApps, and tweets or access on the 702 open line. So we spoke to Nobuhle, who is the chair of the Portfolio Committee on Higher Education. That was before he stepped into that parliamentary committee that is going to review the SETA panel processes. Remember, the Minister of Higher Education, who's now been fired by the President, Nobuhle Nkabane, was supposed to be in that committee meeting this morning. Now, the big debate, from what I can pick up, is there are some MPs that are saying we still need to make sure that that former minister is going to be held accountable. And the chair of the committee is trying to explain that, but the legal advice says you can't try a minister or someone without them being present. In fact, let me take you there for just a couple of minutes before we start with our next conversation. Let's hear what's being discussed.
Yeah, no, I will. Yeah, so you
is that the committee is doing its functions, and its functions include ascertaining and obtaining evidence and getting information in various forms within the mandate and the provisions that I have outlined, because Parliament is a creature of statute. There's absolutely nothing that Parliament can do and its committees can extensively and extended do without a direct provision that is guiding the members what to do. So that said, Chairperson, I want specifically as an answer to read section 92(2) and subsection 3B for members without me having to interpret it or give any meaning to it. But as it states, it says, members of the cabinet are accountable collectively and individually to Parliament for the exercise of their powers and the performance of their functions. Members of the cabinet. Subsection 3B, members of the cabinet, in accordance with the Constitution, must provide Parliament with full and regular reports concerning matters under their control. The point we are at now, the chairperson has alluded, the minister has been removed. The minister no longer falls within Section 92. But the proceedings of the committee does not stop based on the fact that a specific person has been removed, because the Department of Higher Education still exists. Now, it is the ambit within which you must address what still needs to be addressed, that must be corrected and be fairly and procedurally and legally so. That is my response, Chairperson. Thank you.
No, thank you. There's a clear distinction between ministry and department. The department still exists, we all agree. And we're going, like I said earlier on, we're going to continue with that part. But the, what do you call this thing? The Section 92, subsection 2 of the Constitution that says ministers or members of cabinet are individually and collectively accountable to Parliament. Means that Dr. Nkabane is no longer a false part of that. She's not a member of cabinet as things stand.
So that's the debate currently unfolding in Parliament in that committee on higher education. So the decision now will be, how do we move ahead? Can they still ensure the minister is held accountable, or do they leave that to the ethics committee that will investigate whether she lied to Parliament? So that's what's being debated. So stay listening to 702 for the latest coming out of that committee meeting. It's 11 minutes now after 10.
You're with Clement Manyathela.
702.
So we start a conversation now with the SACP Secretary General Solly Mapaila. As you know, the SACP has contested its first election since it resolved to no longer contest under the ANC banner. The party contested Ward 13 in Polokwane just last week after the ward became vacant. And the SACP, you'll remember, resolved to contest the 2026 local government elections independently, which is a decision that could have some serious implications for its alliance partners. If you look at how the ANC has already started responding to this decision by the SACP. So let's welcome now Solly Mapaila to the show, who is going to be with us this hour. You're welcome to join this conversation as well. You can call on 011-883-0702. You can send your WhatsApps as well on 0727021702. Solly, thank you so much for making time for us. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Clement, and good morning to our listeners as well.
Yeah, let me start maybe with current affairs, something that happened yesterday. One of your leaders in the SACP, Buti Manamela, being promoted is essentially to Minister of Higher Education. He has served as the Deputy Minister for a while under different ministers. He is now the Minister of Higher Education. The President has removed Nobuhle Nkabane. Let me get your reaction to that as the SACP.
First, we think that it was important for the appointment of Comrade Buti Manamela. It has long been overdue. He's a competent young comrade, now even in his middle age now. All his peers were promoted and he was overlooked despite his capabilities. And I think it will show off what he's made of, what we have trained him to be as a competent young revolutionary. So we really wish him well in this new tenure in Higher Education and Training Ministry.
Yeah. I want us to start also with what happened last week. As the SACP, you fielded your candidate in the election and you decided to contest Ward 13 in Polokwane. Just explain to us how that went, number one. And number two, how are you managing that decision to contest the 2026 elections with the African National Congress?
That decision to contest Ward 13 in Polokwane was very important and symbolic decision because it had no impact on the reconstitution of council. But it was important that given that we've taken this decision, when our structures are saying or are ready to go to the ballot, we should not prevent them. And our comrades in Polokwane, in Seshego, in Ward 13 decided that they are ready to contest. And albeit symbolic, it was important for us to accept that, partly also because this matter was not fully tested within the framework of the alliance in the ongoing discussions, because we have now reaffirmed our decision to contest elections with or without the reconfiguration of the alliance. And this electoral process will itself be a component of reconfiguration of the alliance. So it was an important aspect for us, and we want to congratulate our comrades that stood up to contest in this ballot, even though under serious pressure from within the ranks of our movement, because there's been a lot of distortions about this decision of the SACP from within some elements inside the alliance.
So you received like around 1% or so of the vote in that by-election. Are you saying that contesting that ward was more symbolic? Does that then explain your performance in that ward? And how do you plan on rebuilding electoral credibility and gain voter confidence?
Well, symbolism of it was that it had no meaning in the outcome or reconstitution of council. Whether we won the ward or not, the council was going to remain the same. Critical, it's when, for instance, we missed to contest Tabazimbi municipality, which was the entire municipality going back for elections in December 2024. That would have been much more strategic. But to the extent that it was the first time we were contesting after the reaffirmation of our National Congress decision to contest elections with or without the reconfiguration of the alliance, and as well as the reaffirmation by our Special National Congress, it was strategic in that sense. So it allowed members of the Communist Party across the country to know that they are free to contest the next by-election that may arise in any of their municipality if they so wish. But it also tests our structures from a point of independent electoral organization, because we've always participated under a broad framework of the alliance. So it was important, and we learned lessons. And we're not saying that we did not contest to win, but for us, the main issue, also given the nature of the ward, it was important that our comrades entered that particular ward specifically.
And what impressions are you getting from that? Do you think that this is generally what people have a view towards the SACP, or do you think that the circumstances were different here? That's why you would get about 1% of the vote. And of course, there are more established parties that have been contesting that ward for a long time, which have come out, tops, so to speak. But there are other circumstances that are exceptional, where there are parties like the MK party that have, for instance, gone and contested some wards for the first time, and they still somehow managed to get some substantial support. So my question is, given that you got 1% here, I mean, that's still a barometer of sorts that helps you gauge support on the ground. What's your assessment following this outcome of this election?
Well, you see, Clement, local government election is different. It responds largely to local dynamics and local issues. And in that particular ward specifically, you'll notice that it's a highly contested ward. The section where our candidate came from, it's a section of the Scotter camp, largely the section of the Scotter camp, but it embodies some components in the township. The issues of services are quite big. And also the response of various organizations, take for instance the economic freedom fighters in that area, and what they've done previously, I think we must commend them. They've done wonderful things. For instance, They managed to get the community a borehole. That area, the people do not have water in the section of the squatter camp. So they managed to organize them a borehole, which was important. And therefore, when our comrades who reside in that particular community are raising other issues that are related to services and connecting them with the interventions of established parties, in this case, like the EFF, create a special dynamic in that particular community. So if you go to a different township or a different area, the results will be quite different. And I think that's why in other upcoming by-elections, for instance, it will be different. It will be tested on the basis of local dynamics and the issues at hand. In this case, for instance, it was not whether because that community has been abandoned by their traditional party that they voted over the years. It was precisely because there was a by-election, and therefore they reaffirmed their previous party. So we're aware about those, but across the country, the dynamics are different from one area to the other. So it's not the ultimate barometer of what will be our own performance. And in any case, as you know, we also entered this race quite late. We reaffirmed the position of our candidate quite late, and we don't have even the resources that other parties have in this instance. So we're purely on the platform of politics, affirmation of principles, and what we stand for. That's what is important. That the organization of that community and the work that we continue to do in that community becomes important, and in other communities as well becomes important going forward.
What's your bigger vision as the SACP? Because does this then not change the dynamics within the ANC-led alliance? How do you see the SACP as a truly independent political party outside the ANC? Do you have a goal to one day govern independently?
Of course, there's no party without the intentions to govern. But to the extent that in South Africa, we have appreciated that the robustness of ideological politics is too low. The general domination of bourgeois parties, it's much more accepted, largely because of the dominance of the capitalist system in our country. So the general trends, the cultures, mannerisms, and behaviors, and so forth are largely adaptive to capitalist behavior or bourgeois tendencies. So we need to mature politics and to understand what strategic interventions are necessary. And I think we can appreciate that the bourgeois parties in power today have run out of ideas about how to solve societal problems. It is in this context that we see our role, how to recalibrate the political space in our country for people to deepen what we call people's democracy, not just bourgeois representative democracy, which has no response to the material living conditions of the people, the deepening crisis of poverty, inequalities, high cost of living. But there's parliament, there's this, you can even look at parliamentary legislation, largely bourgeois legislation, favoring the corporates, not favoring the poor. These are the dynamics that entering this particular space will force even our traditional ally, the ANC, to do right by the people. Because in the current form, they put issues on the table with competing parties on bourgeois competition, capitalist competition, not on competition on how to serve best the interests of the people, how to legislate properly to respond to the current crisis in our country, despite the richness that our country has. It is in that context that we think that we can play a critical role, because in some instances, we have not lacked ideas to present within the framework of the alliance. But those ideas have just been ignored. And to the extent that we have handed over all our power in the hands of the ANC in government, they've then went on to undermine that power, do things as they wish in their own way, disregards our core ideas and the interests of the class that we represent, the majority of the people, the working class. So it is in this context that we have seen how they have also respected smaller parties that they engage with, even in the GNU than their allies, that we really felt that the working class must have its own voice. So participating in this regard will be filling that void of pure working class voice, and even in any further engagement, those engagement will be on the basis of the interests of the working class, not on general basis that we are an ally.
There is a critique, though. There are those that argue that contesting independently weakens the left by splitting the alliance vote. So what's your view on the concerns that this decision could indirectly strengthen your so-called right-wing or neoliberal forces in South Africa?
The ANC itself is implementing a liberal ideology. So there's no difference now ideologically, whether in running the economy, between the ANC and the DA and other right-wing forces. The only thing is the historical positioning of those parties. I mean, you can look into the recent national conference of the ANC, which reaffirmed that the trajectory of our economy will be to bring in competition in the network industries. In other words, to bring in the private sector role in the critical services sectors like water, sanitation, electricity, telecommunication, transportation, and all of those, energy. And these are critical areas of development. They're the anchors of development. So the ANC has recommitted itself to this kind of trajectory, which actually sells the soul of public representative, because now the corporates who are not represented in parliament will be the ones driving the key trajectories of economic development, and they are unaccountable. And to the extent that they are failures in that regard, we collectively get to be blamed. So this notion, it's from the sections of individuals who have no clue about current politics or ideological politics, who are just running with the current. And some even within our own movement, including some inside the Communist Party, who are just happy to sell their soul for as long as their personal interests are taken care of. So we are dealing with that. We are also purifying ourselves in that space so that we are clear about what we represent and what are we in alliance with. We're not in an alliance with a neoliberal organization. We're in alliance with a broad movement, progressive movement, working class bias, but that working class biasness has gone. How do we reclaim that when we are not represented in the political power space? So, and they continue to do things with other right-wing parties in the name of all of us and in the name of our people. When the people continue to suffer, it is in that regard that those with that argument are really misplaced to the real politics in our country.
Okay.
I'll give you an example, Clement, without taking too long. There's a party that, for instance, AIC at one point, when they got Ekurhuleni in the 2016 local government elections, they got 1% in the Ekurhuleni municipality. And for the ANC to work with them, they demanded that the ANC must implement a position of building a road connecting Matatiele and Lesotho, a 40-kilometer road. And they followed to do it, but we can't demand such kind of a thing even for interventions in a community, despite that we are in the alliance, precisely because we have no political power in any municipality or anywhere else to bargain with, apart from the reassurance of the leadership that we are within the framework of the alliance.
Okay, I want us to talk more about that. What kind of leverage would this give you after the latest in Eyewitness News headlines? It's 28 minutes after 10 o'clock.
Aubrey Masango.
Weekday evenings,
8 to midnight.
Wasn't it interesting that Minister Nkabane publicized her resignation letter just hours before we got to know that she had actually been fired? She probably got a phone call from the president to say, hey, man, hey, Comrade Nkabane, man, hey, you can see, man, hey. Bad, man. We must be seen to apply principle universally and consistently, my sister. And therefore, I've decided, in lieu of matters that are taking place at the moment, at this present juncture, at all material times.
Aubrey Masango.
8 to midnight on 702.
702.
The South African Future Trust Awards are returning, made possible through funding by Oppenheimer Generations. The 3 million rand in prizes recognize top entrepreneurs across the following 6 categories: top tech entrepreneur, top social entrepreneur, top youth entrepreneur, top women in business, most innovative idea, and optimized operating model impact award. Entries close on the 31st of July. Please submit your applications now at www.awards.southafricanfuturetrust.org. Winners will be announced at the 2025 South African Future Trust Summit taking place in November at the Sandton Convention Center. Limited early bird tickets are available for 900 Rand. Get yours now in partnership with 702.
Are you looking for deals you can't ignore? Get to Dis-Chem and Dis-Chem Baby City for big baby price cuts this winter. Save 70 Rand on Bepanthen 100 gram nappy care ointment, now only 239 Rand 99. Buy Huggies Gold Nappies Value Pack, sizes 1 to 5 for just 179 Rand 99 per pack. And get 30% off all Johnson's baby products. Don't miss out on these big baby price cuts and more. Offers end 17 August. Only at Dis-Chem and Dis-Chem Baby City.
Every day I'm hustling. It's our reality as business owners. And it's good to know that there's someone out there who takes care of the business that makes the business. Gotta love My Way Business Insurance. Saving big on premiums with 24/7 emergency services, plus My Business Assist with marketing, legal, and labor advice services.
Visit myway.co.za or dial 0860 64 64 64 and get a quote today. My Way is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's, C's, and standard rates apply. My Way. Live your way.
Some walks are just for exercise, others for leisure. But this walk is for something greater.
It's team building.
This July, you won't just take a step, you'll take a stand. You'll walk through history. You'll walk with it. On Sunday, 27 July, the 702 Walk the Talk, hosted by Freedom Park in the city of Tshwane, returns. It's a route that winds through the heart and soul of our capital city. From the sacred grounds of Freedom Park to the powerful steps of the Union Buildings. Choose the 8 kilometer for those walking strong, the 6.7 kilometer in honor of Mandela Month, or the 4 kilometer for families and first-timers. Entries are 360 Rand for adults, 200 Rand for children under 12. Enter now on primemediaplus.com. 702 Walk the Talk, hosted by Freedom Park in the city of Tshwane, is where footsteps become footprints.
10:31, time for the latest in Eyewitness News headlines. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Solly Mapaila, who's the General Secretary of the South African Communist Party. I'll start with your calls and WhatsApps after this. Sfiso, hi.
Thanks, Clement. Good morning. The NPA has suffered another setback after the Gqeberha High Court refused to clarify its ruling acquitting Nigerian televangelist Timothy Omotosho on rape charges. Last week, the NPA launched its appeal against the ruling, which found it had failed to prove Omotosho's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Omotosho was arrested in 2017, facing counts of rape, sexual assault, human trafficking, and racketeering over alleged crimes committed against his congregants in his church. And police have arrested a man suspected to be involved in the murder of Ekurhuleni Chief Auditor Mpho Mafule. Mafule was shot in Kempton Park earlier this month while on his way home from work. He had been investigating a mysterious 2 billion rand revenue shortfall from the Metro's electricity accounts. And it's emerged that dozens of provincial officials and hospital employees in China have attempted to cover up a lead poisoning case that made hundreds of children sick. The government has released a report showing that the officials tampered with the blood tests of the children who were poisoned at a preschool. And those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 11 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
In your roads, there's an earlier accident that's resulted in a stationary vehicle on the N1 southbound at the Beklu interchange. Then roadworks on the N1 northbound. This is at Winnie Mandela Drive. The ramp from Willie Mandela is affected because of that, with one lane currently closed. That's where I'm going to be leaving it. If I've missed anything, you can always let me know on at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
You're with Clement Manyathela.
702. Let's walk the talk.
10:33. We're in conversation with Solly Mapaila, who is the General Secretary of the South African Communist Party. Let's start with your inputs that are coming through. Let's start with this WhatsApp voice note, in fact.
Hi, Clement, the team.
Clement, my question to Mr. Mapaila is, let's say you get voted into power. Which economic model will you adopt? Will you go for socialism or for capitalism, and why? Do you think the problem is the economic model or the implementation of the economic model? David.
All right, thank you, David, for that question. Another question, Solly, from Matlodi says, Clement, what's happening there? Your discussion seems to be way above me as an ordinary listener. Ask Solly there, what should happen to the SACP members, beneficiaries, those who are occupying ministerial positions? Why allow them to form part of a government that the SACP feels that it's failed? And then the other question is from Floyd, who says, Clement, how many party members does the SACP have? What makes them think that they'll govern South Africa? What do they really stand for? This party is about delusions of grandeur. They would be a non-entity if they were not riding on the back of the ANC. Solly?
No, thank you very much, Clement, for those questions. The first one regarding the model that will implement, we're a socialist organization. We'll certainly opt for a socialist transition of our economy. In other words, we'll transfer economic power to the hands of the people. The key critical instruments of our economy will be in the hands of the people. At the moment, they are controlled by corporates, and those that are within the public sector has commissioned them out to capital. Hence, things that could be done at 40% of the cost, they now cost us 100% because of this, a lot of tendering process in between. So we will bring in a people-centered governance, a people-led economic process, and not follow the current trajectory of economic development. In other words, we will look into the source of the problem. That's the major difference between us and the current political parties, is that they prescribe existing problems and not deal with the source. So we'll deal with the source. In other words, we'll implement the political economy of socialism, which traces the origin of the problem and dealing with the source of the problem to avoid such a problem to appear in the future. And of course, in this regard, when we will test ourselves to the masses and let the masses have the options, those who think that over the years, because we have contributed in the liberation of our country in many important platforms of our struggle through the African National Congress, or independently but publicly led by the African National Congress, doesn't mean that we have not existed. In fact, it's also lack of understanding history, because in the past we have contested party positions. We had members in parliament, members in council, before the apartheid regime banned us in 1950 through the Suppression of Communism Act. We were the first organization in this country to be banned by the apartheid regime because they feared the power of socialism, the power of the people, the power of the entire economy in the hands of the people, the power of inclusive society, of non-racialism. So it is in this regard that those who banned us over the years have now re-emerged on the basis of maintaining status quo. Mm-hmm. We will deal away with the current status quo in which the majority are impoverished in the country of plenty, like South Africa.
But your support back then was never tested, right? Your support back then was never tested through elections. And I suppose the question the listener was asking is, you have been riding on the back of the ANC. You are going to become a non-entity should you start defining yourself outside of this alliance.
No, it's impossible. It can never be like that. In fact, the point I was trying to make, since 1994, we only contested Metsimaholo municipality at one point, and we did quite well there. We had 3 councillors, including the mayor, by the way, Comrade Lindiwe, the late. But the issue is that prior that, before 1994 and before the banning of the Communist Party, we had contested elections in this country. We had members of parliament. That's why if you go to the records of Parliament, you'll see the filibustering process that laid bare the entire Communist Manifesto, which was recorded in Parliament despite the distortions by the apartheid government later on, even at local government level. But since 1994, we decided to be behind the African National Congress. And there were reasons for that. One of the reasons was that if the movement does not follow a liberal path of development, will remain supporting the African National Congress. That if the liberation movement itself does not degenerate into chaos, into ill discipline, will continue to support the African National Congress. And I think everyone in the country can see how we are all brushed, painted in the same brush by society on the basis of our participation in government through the African National Congress. Every corruption takes all of us. Despite that, we led the massive campaign against corruption. And I think one of the biggest problems for South Africans is a lack of proper memory in many instances, particularly this commentariat. We led the campaign that also established the state capture inquiry, for instance. We called it an inquiry into corporate capture of the state. At that time, we're looking at how capitalism has captured political power from the hands of the liberation movement, assimilated it to itself, corrupted political leadership, and corrupted politics, and also captured politics, as we now see in our country. We have general chaos in South African politics. So we debated this in 1993 before we decided to work within the framework of the ANC. And with this kind of chaos, we have to stand to be tested on the basis of our own ideology, morality, and what we stand for as communists.
So there was a question also about why are you allowing your leaders to be part of a government that you have described as having failed. You've just congratulated Buti Manamela, who has now been promoted to Minister of Higher Education. These are members of the SACP. If you so truly believe that this government has failed, why are you then accepting deployments, your members, your leaders accepting deployments to serve in the same failed government?
Look, I think this issue have responded to it many times. We are in an alliance at the moment with the African National Congress. Even last year, 2024 elections, we participated collectively as the alliance, as we're defeated in these recent elections. We're defeated together. So the mandate is still a collective mandate. So to that extent, we will continue to play our part within the mandate that we garnered through the African National Congress, that we mobilize South Africans. I crisscrossed the country, for instance, in the campaign for the African National Congress. Why, therefore, should we leave the outcome of our own sweat? So that's the point. The issue is, will Buti degenerate to do the wrong things, or will he improve quality of service in the new appointment? That's the point. So to the extent that we have people who are serving there under the ambit of the alliance, we'll continue to support those comrades to do well and to do their best. But what we are saying to them is that they must not be captured by the aura of bureaucracy, by the aura of the PACs that are in office. That's why, as the leader of the Communist Party, when I was elected, I made a pledge at our Congress that I will not accept to go into government on the basis that I want those who are in government, both as members of the Communist Party and within the framework of the alliance, to account to the public and to account to the revolutionary promises that our people have made, or our movement has made to the people.
All right. Neo and Sizwe, I see your calls. I'll start with them after this. It's 17 before 11.
The Midday Report.
Weekdays,
12 to 1.
Minister Mchunu is a former KZN Premier. There's history there. He may also be in the running to be Ramaphosa's successor in the ANC leadership battle. So this could be a preemptive strike. And it really is important that we are now seeing this judicial inquiry. I know it's another inquiry and a task team, and it's frustrating and it all costs money. But we have to get to the bottom of what has been going on for the last 15 to 20 years in this country.
The Midday Report
with Mandy Wiener.
12 to 1 on 702.
Zansi, for as little as R5, you can play Powerball for an estimated 84 million rand jackpot this Tuesday. So play this Powerball today, and you could be celebrating multi-millions. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529# for USSD. Panda Pusha Play. Players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. Ituba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
My family's struggling with snotty noses and phlegmy coughs.
Oh no! Have you tried ACC?
ACC 600 is a convenient one-a-day effervescent tablet from 14 years of age, or now also in a no-water-needed, fruity-flavored sherbet-like granules that dissolve in your mouth. Ideal for the on-the-go adult. Ask for ACC 600 effervescent or oral powder at your nearest pharmacy to get rid of the snotties and flemmings. And trust, if it doesn't say ACC, it's not ACC.
Dear Journal, day 3049 of trying to be an adult. I still haven't bought a recycling bin, so there's a mountain of cans in my kitchen that could collapse at any moment. Anyway, what's that saying about your home being a reflection of your mental state?
Got evicted from the family home? Get covered at pineapple.co.za. It's like 570 Rand a month, so it's 100% the insurance for you. Underwritten by Old Mutual Alternative Risk Transfer Insurer Limited, a licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP. Premiums are risk profile dependent.
You're with Clement Manyathela.
702. Let's walk the talk.
15 minutes before 11 o'clock. Let's go to your calls as we continue this conversation with Solly Mapaila, who's the General Secretary of the South African Communist Party. Now, let's start with you in 4 ways. Good morning.
Good morning, Mutengisi.
Sure.
I just want to know from Solly Mapaila, since the fall of the communism, in particular the Warsaw Pact countries, and the only remaining communism is Cuba, North Korea, and China, and the other two that I've just missed, the last two are like literally battling, and the only one that is strong is China. The naming of the current your name of your party, South African Communist Party, is it still relevant? That's number one. Number two, in terms of the politics of the day, given the communism, did you still see it like playing a role in the South African society? Because I personally think that looking at the world over, I think it's the politics of the past, and help me to understand your politics. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much for that question. Now, I'll get Solly to respond. Let's hear from Sizwe as well. Sizwe in Pimville, Soweto. Good morning.
Morning, Clement. How are you?
Go ahead, brother. I'm good. Thank you.
Yes. Mine is just a comment. I simply want to put it straightforward. Number one, the South African Communist Party is an ANC front. It will continue to be an ANC front. The rhetoric that Mr. Mapaila is delivering is in fact just buying the faces of people. There's never been a true communist party in South Africa. Never. And Mapaila and his entourage are not communists. They wear designer clothes, they drive designer cars, they live flashy lifestyles, and they flash even their wealth and all that in the face of the public. Then they call themselves a communist. There's never been a communist party.
So a communist is supposed to be poor, Sizwe? A communist must be poor. And are you suggesting a communist must be poor? What are you suggesting? So anybody who may be in the middle class or upper wouldn't represent interests of...
Yeah, I mean, dealing with I would call a level society, a society that has no status, is upper class, lower class, and whatever class. That would be a communist milieu. In essence. But there's a lot to it than simply a classless society.
Oh, okay. Caesar Pimpiville, thank you. Solly?
Yeah, well, I think sometimes when you deal with people like Sizwe, well, let me say it's generalizing too much. And people like him are not worthy of a debate, really. It's a waste of time and energy. He lies to his... what he described is not what I am, for instance, as an example, and I represent the Communist Party. So this generalization in the context of debate is foolishness, actually. So it's not worth of a debate. But look, even when he speaks about particular countries like China, there's this tendency within the bourgeois framework to take away the success of socialism in China, despite what the Chinese are saying every day, that they're building socialism. They're constructing it, and it's getting successful, and it's competing better with capitalism. It's even surpassing capitalism, particularly in the development of productive capacity and resources. So much that the response by America, for instance, is chasing the success of a socialist order in China. They've ended poverty. There's still millions of people who sleep on the streets with no houses, with no food, with no health care in the US. So when you have a debater like this, it's not a debater, it's an insult thrower. So it's not worth it, really, for a public discussion. But with regard to what we stand for is to serve society, and we're not a front of anybody. And to try and say all our contributions, the sacrifices, should be erased by the comments of one individual for whatever his own disappointment, or whether he's a capitalist stooge or anything, doesn't erase history. And that's the fact. So we will stand principled, and will continue to fight along moral and ethical basis to represent our society and to make sure that the masses of our people are the primary beneficiaries of our economy in order to improve their lives. And if in the improvement of their life we can reach an egalitarian society, a society of equals, that's the society that we say will have created the primary stage of socialism. Then we can then fully move on from that society to transfer the ultimate ownership of power of the economy to the people as a whole. In other words, the ownership of the means of production.
Okay, after the break, I would like to get your thoughts on the decision, or at least the calls that have been made from within the ANC for a ban on the SACP's members' participation in ANC elections preparations. Isn't that fair, because you are now challenging them and contesting elections? I'll get your response and come with some more WhatsApp voice notes that have come through after this.
And they're off. Little too young, barely two, racing injured. Here comes whipped into shape, running on pain. Duct tape dreams on the outside, tongue-tied and terrified. And now discarded glory, limping to avoid the glue truck. It's beaten again, crop flying, lungs bleeding. And it's doped up glory, gets it by a nose. Now that's racing.
Cruelty is staining horse racing. The NSPCA is calling for the industry to sign their racing code of conduct. Show your support at nspca.co.za/rein in the pain.
Choose Checkers, SA's #1 value for money supermarket, and save on Lancewood cheddar or Gouda cheese, 900 grams for $139.99. E45 dermatological body cream, 500 grams for $229.99 each. And Parmalat Everfresh long life milk, 1 litre 6-pack, any 3 for 269 rand. Valid until this Sunday at Checkers, Checkers Hyper, or shop on 6060.
Two iconic South African acts, one unforgettable stage. Jeremy Loops and Ladysmith Black Mambazo present Echoes Between Us. Live at the Teatro at Monte Casino on 19 and 20 September. Experience this once-in-a-lifetime collaboration of rhythm, harmony, and heritage with these exclusive shows. Tickets on sale now from Web Tickets. Proudly supported by 702 and 947.
You're with Clement Manyathela.
702.
8 minutes before 11 o'clock. Yeah, Solly, let's get your response to whether you think it's fair for these calls that have been made from within the ANC that SACP members' participation in ANC elections preparations, there should be a ban on that, so they shouldn't attend that because you are contesting elections and you are basically competing with the same organizations, and it would be unfair to have you sit in ANC elections preparations when you have your own elections preparations to contest. Do you think that's fair?
Firstly, Clement, I love this question because it has confused many people at the top leadership level of the African National Congress, starting with the officials. But that shows the quality of leadership that we have. The alliance, the primary constitution of this alliance is dual membership. that drives a common agenda, the National Democratic Revolution. So when the ANC does that, it prevents its own members from participating in its own structures. But in this regard, we were the first to say, now that we are preparing our own and establishing our own institutions on local government elections, we should not be participating in the general elections framework of the alliance, because we're running an independent campaign.
Oh,
We
so
said
you
that to
made the
ANC.
suggestion.
Yes, we made a suggestion first. And we then said to our comrades, in this contest, because some of our members serve in both executive committees and therefore are required by those executive structures to do their duties on the platform of elections. We said those who are holding positions in the party and are in the ANC and are working in the party on elections must declare in the ANC that I've been appointed to deal with this thing. Take, for instance, Comrade Manyathela is the head of our elections machinery going to 2024, for instance, and the ANC is aware about that. So he's a member of the ANC National Elections team, but he was there representing the Communist Party, but he's also a member of the ANC National Executive Committee. So we say we can't hide the fact that he's running our elections team. He still is, even now as we speak. He's still in charge of our national elections team. So we say to the ANC, he's our leader. We have deployed him in this duty. But if you want to plan something that may bring confusion, that is something that may not advance the framework of the National Democratic Revolution, you can decide whatever you want to say. The problem we have had with them acting in this way is that they then invited our comrades, for instance, our comrades in Mpumalanga, where I am now on the People's Red Caravan. Our comrades then tells them that, no, we have established our own structures. Please allow us not to participate. They insist that they must come. When they're in the meeting, then they say, go. Then why do you do that? I mean, that's shallowness of leadership. It's disrespectful. And when they treat our comrades like that, they must know they are also damaging themselves because of this dual membership concept.
All right. Here are some voice notes that have also come through.
Hi, Clement. Hope you're well. So, Clement, do they still remain part of the tripartite alliance? Please clarify that, or it's going to be a dual alliance now?
It's always been dual. The people who've got dual membership, but as he has said, they do remain part of the ANC's alliance.
Good morning, Clement. I think it is too late for the SACP to think that they can exist without the ANC. This alliance benefits them more than ANC. So they must just stop what they are doing and swallow their pride. Thank you very much. Peter Maila Machaba from Letswata.
Yeah. Solly, as we wrap up, how do you plan on protecting your members from, I suppose some are calling it political purging, because the ANC has suggested that those with dual membership may need to be excluded from future government deployments?
Clement, first is that to reaffirm that we remain part of the alliance. It's not ANC alliance. It's the alliance constitutive of the ANC, SACP, COSATU, and SANCO. We are not joining the ANC. We are independent formations, but are interdependent in the alliance. But have accepted that the ANC, given its broadness, should take societal leadership on behalf of the alliance. But when it does so, it must implement the collective decisions of our societal transformation in order to transform our lives from the poor ones, from apartheid, segregation, to a non-racial and prosperous society. And we're not beginning to see that. We're seeing that waning. And the issues that are important for us have been sidelined. That's the critical question. So if the ANC purges members of the Communist Party, they are purging themselves. We have got less than 1% of our members who are not holding ANC membership. Of over 350,000 party members. So they'll be actually damaging themselves. So that's why this question doesn't require arrogance. like what the ANC displayed over the years, over 22 years of internal discussions, and the recent leadership last year having a take it or leave it kind of posture. But when we sign up for what 13, they clamor for meetings to say, but no, you guys are serious. Yes, we are serious. We are going to contest. And that's why the Congress, our 15th Congress that elected me as General Secretary, they gave me this mandate. And this mandate is reaffirmed by our Special National Congress. I can't even change it. So they want us to change this thing. They also do not believe. And I think that if you look at the majority of the ANC generation now, the top leaders, they have not been long in the ANC to understand the independence of alliance components. So that's part of the problem. But we'll solve that in politics. We'll remain in alliance with progressive forces in this country. We'll widen also the broad front and broad movement so that we can regain the transformation agenda in our country.
All right. Solly Mapaila, General Secretary of the South African Communist Party. Thank you for chatting to us this morning. It's 11 o'clock.
At Bright, we don't just provide business insurance, we insure your business's
future success.
Because your business is so much more than desks and computers and equipment, which is why we use our specialist expertise to tailor solutions for each client differently to ensure what's really important. So insure your businesses.
Financial security, BD.
With Bright today. Contact your broker or go to brightinsure.co.za to find out more. Bright. Approach risk with purpose. Bright is a licensed insurer and authorized FSP.
Paula Ice Cream, proudly local, proudly South African, is walking the talk with 702. They're thrilled to support an event that brings people, families, and communities together. And to make it even better, free Paula Ice Cream for every single finisher. So let's celebrate local spirit, winter wellness, and shared happiness. Join us at the 702 Walk the Talk and make it a day to remember. Paula, share the happiness.
Dreaming of your next getaway? Whether it's a sun-soaked beach escape, adventure-packed tour, or luxury cruise, Flight Center is your go-to for travel. From flights and hotels to tours and cruises, we've got it all. Plus travel insurance for peace of mind. If you want the best deals, you can save more by taking advantage of our Bundle Plus Save offer. Plan your trip today at your nearest Flight Center store or visit flightcenter.co.za. Flight Center, your center for travel.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Sfiso Zulu. The NPA has suffered another setback after the Nkabane High Court refused to clarify its ruling acquitting charges against Nigerian televangelist Timothy Omotosho. Last week, the NPA launched its appeal against the ruling, which found it had failed to prove Omotosho's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Omotosho was arrested in 2017, facing 30 counts of rape, sexual assault, human trafficking, and racketeering over alleged crimes committed against his church congregants. Police have confirmed the arrest of a fifth suspect in connection with the murder of Opa Sifoka, widely known as DJ Somebody. Sifoka was shot in a drive-by shooting in Johannesburg in 2022 in a case that sparked widespread speculation about an ordered hit. 4 other accused appeared briefly in the Alexandra Magistrates Court this morning. Their case has been postponed to next week Tuesday for a formal bail application. Police spokesperson Atlenda Mate.
Got 4 suspects in custody. We now know that the same firearm that killed Aman Swart is the same firearm that killed DJ Somebody and his 2 bodyguards. And we now know that the same suspects that were arrested in the Amar Swart case are also the same suspects that are arresting DJ Somebody. What is also interesting is that the 2 hitmen in this particular case are also linked to the Debacle Tewejane attempted murder. So all these 3 cases are linked somehow.
On the East Rand, police have arrested a man suspected to be involved in the murder of Ekurhuleni Chief Auditor Mpho Mafule. Mafule was shot in Campton Park earlier this month while he was on his way home from work. He had been investigating a mysterious 2 billion rand revenue shortfall from the Metro's electricity accounts. Tabiso Goba reports.
Gauteng police spokesperson Dumakatso Nobuhle says the unnamed 40-year-old suspect was arrested by police on Sunday. She says police are also looking for his alleged co-conspirator Manyathela.
The team is also looking for a second suspect by the name of Hlanganani Agrippa Ngwango after a warrant of arrest was issued for him by the court. The police urged Ngwango to hand himself over to the nearest police station.
Mpho Mafole had only been working for 3 months as Ekurhuleni municipality's head of forensic audits. Ekurhuleni mayor says prior to his death, Mafole had submitted an interim report of what possibly could have led to the metro losing about 2 billion rand from its electricity revenue. Thabiso Koba, Eyewitness News.
And it's emerged that dozens of provincial officials and hospital employees in China have attempted to cover up a lead poisoning case that made hundreds of children sick. The government has released a report showing that the officials tampered with the blood tests of the children who were poisoned at a preschool. The report also shows that some government officials also accepted bribes from an investor of the preschool while neglecting food safety inspections. In an attempt to attract more students, the head of the preschool had used paint to enhance the look of its meals. Gold is trading at $3,386.10 an ounce. The rand is at 17.64 to the dollar, 23.77 to the pound, 20.62 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $68.85 a barrel.
Looking at your roads, there's a multi-vehicle crash on the N1 northbound. This is at Bears Nordia Drive. The ramp to the BP fuel station on Bears Nordia Drive is affected. All lanes are closed, so you're either going to have to get off on 14th Avenue or Malibongwe to get around that. Stationary vehicle on the N1 southbound at Beklu interchange, and then roadworks on the N1 southbound. This is at Brakfontein Road, specifically the on-ramp there.
A cloudy day in store for Gauteng. The temperatures will peak at highs between 17 and 19 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour, the NPA has suffered another setback after the Gqeberha High Court refused to clarify its ruling acquitting charges against Nigerian televangelist Timothy Omotosho.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
Walk through history, walk with it. Sunday, 27 July, 7:02 Walk the Talk. Hosted by Freedom Park in the city of Tshwane. More on primemediaplus.com.
You're with Clement Manyathela
On 702.
Let's Walk the Talk, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app,
DSTV channel 856.
92.7 and 106 FM.
Seven minutes after 11 o'clock. Dumelang, welcome to the third and final hour of the Clement Manyathela Show. Time now for our World of Work feature.
702.
World of Work.
Have you ever considered being a whistleblower in the workplace? Would you do it? With the context that you have now. We're talking about whistleblowing this morning on our World of Work feature and the kind of conducive environment that companies should create for whistleblowing and also for the protection of whistleblowers. And that protection goes beyond what companies can do, but it involves legislation. It involves ensuring even that our law enforcement agencies are able to act, especially when there is criminality that's been reported and there's a level of protection on those that have exposed the rot. Have you ever blown the whistle in your workplace? I'd like to hear from you on 011-883-0702. What happened afterwards? After you blew that whistle. The WhatsApp line is 0727021702. Were you targeted? Were you protected? And knowing your workplace right now, would you consider blowing the whistle? Kulani Shuluvane is a human resources specialist who's going to guide us through this conversation. Kulani, thank you for your time. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement. Good morning to your listeners, and thank you for having me.
So when we talk about whistleblowing, what exactly are we talking about? Because sometimes we confuse it with just what people would ordinarily do in the workplace, just simply reporting a workplace issue or a grievance. So what's the difference?
Okay, so whistleblowing involves reporting a serious wrongdoing that affects public interest. These are things such as fraud, corruption, health and safety violations, right? And it goes, as you've mentioned, goes beyond a personal grievance, right? Whereas a personal grievance involves, how somebody is treated in the workplace. Whistleblowing focuses on misconduct that can harm others in the company or society at large.
Okay, and from your experience, how do companies deal with whistleblowing? Often when we talk about this, there are some listeners that are even scared to blow the whistle in their workplaces because they just don't trust that they will be protected. So is there enough protection? And from your experience, have companies created an environment that is conducive for people to really expose if there's something untoward happening?
In my experience, yes and no. I think a lot of organizations are doing the best that they can. Organizations have things like policies in place that can guide employees on, the steps that they need to take in terms of how to blow the whistle, so to speak. However, some companies are still, lagging behind. There are no clear guidelines on how to go about it. There are no policies in place. There aren't even structures or mechanisms within the workplace where people can actually, without fear or favor, actually blow the whistle, right? It needs mechanisms like, how does one actually go about reporting any kind of issue that is happening? Is there an anonymous hotline? What internal processes are in place for people to do so? So we find a mix within organizations, but in the whole, I do think that organizations, number one, are doing the best that they can. They also have legislation on what that can guide them. We have in South Africa the Protected Disclosure Act. And, organizations should use that as a guideline when they're drafting policies in order to ensure that, they're creating a conducive environment within their organizations for people to blow the whistle conducively.
Yeah, and I mean, it's great for us to have legislation, obviously. It's great for companies to say, oh, there's this hotline you can call and be anonymous. But I mean, Kulani, that if I'm going to blow a whistle about a specific issue, it's going to be very simple for people who know the intimate details of my department and maybe the project that I've been running and maybe the concerns that I've raised in the company about the project. And people who know that are likely to be led towards me whenever they are trying to figure out who may have blown the whistle. So I wonder, how do we get people to be comfortable to blow the whistle? Because legislation on its own is just not enough. Like we've seen people being unfairly treated where there is constructive dismissal, even though there's legislation out there that could protect them. But because in the company you may be seen as, why did you, go and put the dirty laundry of this company in public like that? Some companies often want to come after you. So I suppose what I'm trying to figure out is, on top of the legislation, which is crucial to have, what else do we need to do within the companies to protect employees? Because at some point, they will know that it is you, even though stuff is done anonymously. If you've raised issues about a particular project and the next thing, there's an anonymous complaint about the very same issues you've been raising, it leads them to you, and sometimes you get unfairly treated. What options are available for such employees?
So ideally, whistleblowing should happen internally within organizations, right? However, as you mentioned, that's not always conducive, right? So, even the legislation itself recognizes the fact that sometimes the internal structures and the internal mechanisms do not suffice, because there is, those intimate details, and it would be easy for people within the organization to mismanage the whistleblowing, lack of a better word. So there are ways in which individuals can actually, use external disclosures, and the legislation does make a provision for that, because it does recognize that sometimes, internally it's not a conducive environment. I think internally, in addition to what I spoke about in terms of creating an environment and mechanisms that are conducive to whistleblowing, I think it's also important that we understand, the best practice around these, right? So disclosing needs to be taken seriously. It needs to be investigated independently. And most importantly, and I think this is where a lot of it actually stems from, is that the whistleblower needs to be protected by all means necessary. The individual or individuals need to be protected. And when the process, of investigation is going, the report needs to be, we need to have a transparent outcome, and without disclosing any kind of sensitive information. So, number one, internal structures might not be ideal. So there are external structures that you can utilize, but we also need to ensure that there's best practice when these matters are being handled as well.
Yeah. 011-883-0702. If you are an employer, maybe you can share with us how you go about protecting whistleblowers. But as an employee, have you ever blown the whistle on any wrongdoing? What happened afterwards? Were you protected? Were you victimized? What was the process afterwards? And if you've never done it and you're considering doing it, given what you have assessed in as far as your workplace is concerned, is this something that you would ever do? Got a message here from Anonymous who says, "Hi Clement, I'm a forensic investigator, and some organizations I have worked for do not protect their employees. They actually victimize them. It's the same as, tip-off anonymous. There is nothing anonymous about it. If they want to find you, they will. Because of that, I could never become a whistleblower. I'm protecting my life and my job." And I suppose this is a point I was making earlier, Kulani, that if the company really wants to find you, they can find a way to know who you are. But I suppose, Kulani, what you would need here is you need HR departments. In fact, you need companies to create a culture where employees feel safe to come forward without fear of victimization or retaliation. I would want to know before I even blow the whistle that, this is a company that actually takes wrongdoing seriously. Can I ask though, in a company where there could be like a board of directors, is it advisable for someone in a company who may want to blow the whistle but doesn't necessarily trust HR or the executives in the company, is there an option for them to go directly to one of the board members and say, I want to reveal this to you guys because I'm scared that I may be victimized, or that if I raise this issue with the executives in the company or HR, it may be just thrown under the carpet?
No, definitely. You can definitely go to, so-called external structures that don't necessarily sit with the day-to-day operations of the organization. And the board is a good example of that, where you can actually go and address the board directly to say, I'm concerned, I've seen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't think if I reported this internally, it will be dealt with. Hence, I have voted here. So definitely the board is a good place to go. But there are also other external organizations, right? There are NGOs like Corruption Watch and Alta that can also assist individuals that exist in these organizations that unfortunately do exist, Clement, where, people are victimized, people are forced into resigning because it's not handled in the manner in which it should be handled.
Yeah. Another one says, "Hi Clement, Anonymous here. Please, I blew the whistle on my manager and I followed the reporting rules to the book. I am now being unfairly treated and receiving reprisal from my manager to a point that I feel they are conniving to go towards constructive dismissal. My faith and confidence in my role here is what's keeping me strong." That's a message there from Anonymous. So advice to this person would be maybe like approach Corruption Watch, approach other people, because you do need people like this to be protected.
100%. My advice there would be, number one, to lay a grievance internally, especially if they are pushing towards some kind of constructive dismissal, right? So deal with it internally, lay a grievance, and the organization is then forced to deal with the matter as internally as well. But do use external organizations as well. And as an HR practitioner, as I always say, you need to document everything. When things come to a push and shove, you need to ensure that you have all your ducks in a row to document everything. But step number one, do lay a grievance, see how that goes. If that is not handled in the way that it should be handled, then do approach, the necessary organizations to ensure that this is dealt with effectively.
What about the risk of employees who misuse whistleblowing channels to settle personal scores or for malicious reasons? How can HR manage that risk? Because it will happen, Kulani, even though it's under special circumstances. But there's instances where employees will misuse these whistleblowing channels, or they'll try and say something for malicious reasons. How do you then manage that as a business or even as HR, that risk?
So you need to assess what is happening, right? Human beings are very complex, Clement. So you, as an HR practitioner, you need to be able to differentiate between something that is either a personal grievance, or if somebody is, a so-called tattletale and they're trying to use, internal and proper structures to settle a personal score, or if this is a genuine issue that needs, the protection that comes with being a whistleblower as well. And the distinction is very, very important, right? Because somebody that's trying to, if we as HR practitioners start using mechanisms designed for serious things like whistleblowing to settle personal scores of individuals within the organization, we're going to lose the confidence of actual real whistleblowers. So you need to be able to distinguish between the two and handle the two in a way that is proper for both to be handled, because the distinction becomes extremely, extremely important. We do live in a society where whistleblowers are afraid to come forward because of the way they've seen other whistleblowers being handled. So if we conflate those two issues, then we're not doing justice to the whistleblowers.
Yeah, it's 21 minutes now after 11 o'clock. Here's some WhatsApp voice notes that have come through on 072 702 1702.
Hi, Clement. I would like to remain anonymous. I think on the issue of whistleblowing, Clement, it's a good thing to stand against crime and corruption. But in a country where whistleblowers are not protected and they are being victimized, all that, it is not worth it. And personally, I would actually not do that. Thank you.
Good day. I worked for a company that had a manager suspended, and when the manager wanted to get staff members in to stand at the hearing for him, the staff members were told that you will cut your career short with the company, therefore they didn't stand for them.
Morning, Clement. The only solution is to have the hotline where you're going to be anonymous. But now the problem with the people who are anonymous, they don't tell us how are we going to get the evidence. You get the whistleblowing, the information, but they don't provide the evidence. So now we get stuck because they won't come forward for inquiries. You've got the information, but you don't have evidence. So we need to work around as to how we can get that evidence of a whistleblower.
Yeah, Tabo, you are in Springs. Good morning.
Good morning.
Sure. Go ahead, man.
Sure, man. Yeah, actually, thank you for inviting such guests. Because your topic is actually similar like the one for Nobuhle, whereby employees are getting victimized or they are fired unfairly. Because one can be a whistleblower, but maybe go through the HR. What if the HR are the ones actually defending that information that you are bringing in? and then they start victimizing you. Because I'll give an example. I was fired for whistleblowing, which was through the disciplinary hearing after I've given the information. And the HR, I was actually exposed to about 6 HR who actually eventually get me out of the job, and that led to depressions and all that.
What are you charged with, Thabo?
No, they said the thing. Then they started maybe cooking negligence and all that. I had to go through a lot of disciplinary hearings, and I was winning those disciplinary hearings up until they get me onto a corner. But eventually, I was dismissed.
And they didn't do anything about the concerns you raised as a whistleblower?
No, they didn't. But then they were now fighting.
Yeah.
I took the matter to the TRC, I took the matter to the CCMA, but without my help. And if you will remember, I once spoke to you about a fight condition where a person I was fired because of depression.
Yeah, Tibos, that's crazy, man. Yeah, Kulani, in a case where you take the matter to HR and they just don't do anything, in fact, they find ways to victimize you and charge, trumped up charges, and they end up getting rid of you. Where do you escalate it to next? I know earlier you mentioned some other stakeholders. So if someone has sent something to HR and they're not taking it seriously, what would you advise their next step to be?
Definitely to escalate. We have the CCMA that is there to ensure and entrench the rights of both the employer and the employee. So I'll definitely escalate matters. And, Clement, it's actually quite sad that we do have situations where the organization itself, does work against employees. But definitely, I would definitely recommend that employees use external structures like the CCMA to ensure that matters like this are dealt with. Yeah.
Let's go to some messages here. Hi, Clement. I trust. I turned to be a victim at my previous work because of whistleblowing, and I reported the matter to the organization I was paying every month, but there was no help at all since then. No more doing it again. Another one says, Clement, anonymous here. Can an employee blow the whistle after disciplinary processes are taken against him for the same activity? Doesn't this look like he was colluding with management all the time and now wants to claim to be a whistleblower? Does the timing matter, Kulani? So if I'm taken through a DC for, I don't know, something I've done that's wrong in a particular project, can I then come back and say, oh, actually the CEO of the company is the one who wanted me to do this, or who was pushing for me to do this? So you're blowing the whistle after you've been sent to a disciplinary hearing.
In a case like that, the timing is not particularly. If there's let me put it this way: if there is a genuine issue that you believe is an issue that needs to be dealt with, then the timing does not matter. But we need to understand that it needs to be an issue that is serious. It's not an individual problem, but it's an individual that impacts the organization as a whole or society at large. So the timing doesn't matter. If there's a genuine concern, you should blow the whistle at any point.
And then Anonymous, I'll wrap up with this message from Anonymous, who says, I witnessed some concerning behavior, reported it in good faith, but instead of getting support, I was let go over minor issues that seemed unrelated to the real problem. It's so frustrating that my concerns weren't taken seriously, especially since the person I reported apparently confessed to wrongdoing to me, and I hold the evidence to date. I will not share it with my former employer because of the way they treated me. Mind you, all the black employees knew about this, but I was the one that spoke up. I mean, it's so sad to receive so many messages, Kulani, of people who are basically saying, I would never do this because this is how I was treated. And I think this says a lot about employers out there. It says a lot about companies out there and the environment that exists within those institutions.
100%. It is actually very disheartening to hear the amount of people that have said that I would not come forward. And I understand it, Clement. I do understand it, because you're then having to decide between, your own well-being or the greater good. And especially if you feel where you are you're singled out, right? And people know that these things are happening, but everybody's choosing, to put their head in the sand, so to speak. So it is quite disheartening. And this is where, HR and leadership within the organization actually needs to start championing and advocating for the rights and the well-being of whistleblowers. If we are going to create environments and organizations that are conducive for whistleblowing, we need to ensure that we, and I say we because I'm part of the HR and leadership as well, that organizations are conducive to do so. Otherwise, you're letting people down, and we see it a lot, and we can't continue to expect people to put themselves in harm's way if we're not going to protect them, shield them, and follow due process.
Yeah, Kulani Shuluvani, thank you for making time for us. She's a human resources specialist. It's now time for the latest in Eyewitness News headlines. It's 11:30. Mbali, good morning.
Thanks, Clement. A very good morning. The NPA has suffered another setback after the Gqeberha High Court dismissed an application for it to clarify its ruling, which acquitted Nigerian televangelist Timothy Omotosho. Last week, the NPA launched its appeal against the ruling, which found it had failed to prove Omotosho's guilt, but beyond reasonable doubt. Omotosho was arrested in 2017, facing 30 counts, including rape, sexual assault, and human trafficking. Police have confirmed the arrest of a fifth suspect in connection with the murder of Uba Sifuka, popularly known as DJ Somebody. Sifuka was shot in a drive-by shooting in Johannesburg in 2022 in a case that sparked widespread speculation about an ordered hit. 4 other accused appeared briefly in the Alexandra Magistrates Court this morning. And Parliament's portfolio committees on police as well as justice and constitutional development have now adopted a draft report into the allegations made by KZN Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. Earlier this month, Mkhwanazi presented several damning allegations of corruption and collusion against police top brass and the judicial cluster in Gauteng. Those are the headlines. This EWN and more at midday or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
This EWN Traffic is brought to you by cars.co.za. Let's find what moves you. Matt, how are we looking on the road?
Well, not much changes on the N1 northbound. That was Bears Nordia Drive, where there was an earlier incident that involved a multi-vehicle accident. Still active on the ramp to the Bears Nordia Oasis, with that being closed. Then there's a stationary vehicle on the N3 northbound that is at Modderfontein Road. The left-hand lane is affected. And then roadworks on the N1 southbound. This is at the Brakfontein Road interchange. Amul is going to be back tomorrow. Charlene's got you covered at 12 for EWN Traffic. I am Matt Flax.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Do you want to buy a Honda? Cars.co.za. Toyota or Mahindra? Cars.co.za. Do you want to sell a Cherry? Cars.co.za. Suzuki or Mercedes? Cars.co.za. Polo, Kia, Mitsubishi, Havel, Hyundai, Lamborghini. Buy and sell, it's very easy. All you got to do is type Cars.co.za. 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 Let's find what moves you. Cars.co.za. Cars.co.za.
John Perlman. Weekday afternoons,
3 to 6.
If they were to give in to your demands, this would be a 20% increase in overall cost to company. They're saying, and I'll quote them, this is an unsustainable escalation for any company. First of all, do you accept that number? And secondly, if you do you not feel that you're potentially putting the sustainability of the largest domestic carrier at risk?
The problem is we haven't got to the core issue, and that's the shift roster issue. It's not the remuneration that needs to be resolved first, and we wanted certain changes.
John Perlman.
3 to 6 on 702.
Whenever you hear deep in the heart and art of jazz,
Think Sia Makuzeni with the big band, Jasmine Horn, Alun Wad, The Baylor Project, Jose James sings Badu, Umusangare, Esperanza Spalding, Michelle Dugiocello, Elaine, Tezo, Munei, Mondli Ngobo, and many other spectacular icons. Think Standard Bank Joy of Jazz Festival, 4 stages at the Santon Convention Center, 26th, 27th and 28th September, and take me there. Book via Ticketmaster.
Hey, no longer feeling like the man you used to be?
The man who has inside jokes with complete strangers.
The fact is, 95% of men with low testosterone go untreated.
Vitamin High Performance Supplements for men helps recharge energy, regain lean muscle, and reload performance. Available at all good pharmacies and vitalamin.co.za.
Vitalamin. Don't get older. Get better.
Your office is more than just a place to work. It's a reflection of your success. At Desk and Chair, we help you elevate your workspace with locally manufactured desks and a wide range of chairs to suit your style and budget. Our expert consultants are with you every step of the way, from planning to delivery and assembly. Visit our showroom in Midrand or shop online at deskandchair.co.za. Desk and Chair. Think, feel, work better.
Shane. Do you have a sore throat? The Andalex range of lozenges offers 2 options. At the first signs of an irritated, scratchy throat, use Andalex lozenges for dual action, soothing relief. But for a painful, inflamed throat, use Andalex C lozenges for triple action, pain relief. Andalex, SA's #1 choice for a sore mouth and throat. Andalex lozenges are available at all leading pharmacies and supermarkets.
Just Andalex it.
The 702 Walk the Talk is happening on Sunday, and we can't wait to walk with you on this awesome family day out. But before we hit the streets, you need to get your walk number. So if you choose to collect yours at the DP World Wanderers Stadium in Joburg, you can do so this Thursday, the 24th, and Friday, the 25th, between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. If you selected the Union Buildings in Pretoria as your collection venue, walk numbers will be ready for collection only on Saturday, the 26th, between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Remember, you must go to the collection venue you selected when entering. The 702 Walk the Talk, hosted by Freedom Park Heritage Site in the city of Tshwane. See you on Sunday.
Coming up
on 702 Afternoons.
All right, coming up between 1 and 3 p.m. Is 702 Afternoons with Jonathan Kabazela, who's in for Lebohile Maboja. How are you doing, Jonathan?
I'm good, Clem. How you doing?
I'm all right. What's popping
Lovely.
today?
So, there will be a time on this earth, Clem, where you and I will no longer exist, and we'll have our funerals, and they could be great funerals or happy funerals or sad funerals, but we'll never know because we're dead, right? But some people will go as far as wanting to plan every little detail about their funeral. So I want to open up the lines this afternoon and ask our 702 family about, do you care about what happens at your funeral, or is it something that, I'll leave it for the loved ones that we leave behind? And who's it for? Is the funeral for the person who's passed, or is it for the people that are left behind? So that's the chat that I'm going to have on our open line. And then at 20 to 2, we do the tech feature, which is the future of AI in the workplace. We're going to be joined by Trevor Ndobela. He's the CEO of Qualfix, and he's going to chat to us about what are we seeing in the workplace when it comes to AI? What are the ethics? What are the fears? What are the opportunities? So lots to talk about AI in the workplace. Then after 2 o'clock, it's the series edition, and we are talking about understanding civil cases and lawsuits. And in today's episode, we are looking at David taking on Goliath. What are all the issues around when the small guy has to take on a big corporate? And then it's Tuesday as well, which is the car feature. So that's after 2:30. We're going to be talking about trusting your mechanic. I mean, if your car's out of a service plan and you have to find a mechanic, one that you can trust, what are the things that you need to look out for, the checks and balances, all that kind of stuff. And we'll be joined by 2 industry bodies, the Motor Industry Workshop Association and the Motor Industry Workshop. That's repeated twice here on my message. So two industry bodies are going to chat to us about workshops and what you must look out for if you take your car for a service.
All right, that's what's coming up on 702 Afternoons with Kabazela between 1 and 3 p.m.
702.
Health and wellness.
And we get into our health and wellness feature now. And today we are focusing on epilepsy in children. I mean, this is a common neurological disorder globally affecting 70 million old people. In fact, up to 90% live in low income and lower middle income countries, and over half of these are children. So we're trying to understand epilepsy in children. So if you have a child with epilepsy, I'd like you to share your experience on how you've been managing that. Maybe you have some questions around how to deal with epilepsy in children, or there are certain medications you've been trying. Are they working? Are they not? What concerns do you have based on how you've been managing it for your child? 011-883-0702 is the number to dial. The WhatsApp line is 072-702-1702. Dr. Futhi Mahlase is a pediatrician who's going to guide us through this chat. Dr. Mahlase, thank you for your time. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement. Thank you for having me.
So let's start by explaining to our listeners, what is epilepsy in just simple terms, and how common is it among children in this country?
So epilepsy is a neurological condition, so it affects the brain and how the brain functions. So basically what happens is that the brain will get sudden bursts of abnormal electrical activity, and these can cause seizures. In children, it's actually one of the most common chronic neurological disorders, and about 2 per 100 children in South Africa live with epilepsy.
So, how do we then manage? Do we manage it differently when it's a child as opposed to when it's an adult who's dealing with it?
Yes. So the treatment between children and adults is different, solely because with children, epilepsy or seizures are happening on a brain that's developing. So one, you must first be able to identify them so they may not present the same in children as well as adults. And then also in terms of treatment, this is typically done it's almost individualized, depending on the age of the child and their weight, and also the type of seizure. That's how we tailor-make the treatment for the child.
And what are some of the known causes of a condition like this, especially in children? Are there any genetic or environmental factors at play?
So yes, there are genetic causes. So those ones we'll see early on, especially like just after the baby has been born. And also you can see them when there's some brain injury, like for example, if it's a baby that was born and had issues just, with the either prolonged stage of labor or what we call neonatal encephalopathy, previously known as asphyxia. So those would be the children that would have or at risk of seizures. Some children would be in the premature babies that have had bleeds, like major bleeds. Those ones can also have seizures. And also if they have infections like meningitis. And then also children that have had head trauma, or sometimes babies that are just born with their brain that hasn't been properly developed. Also some parts of the brain are missing. Those can cause seizures. Sometimes the cause is really unknown. And then some environmental issues are more related to access to care early on, and as well as nutrition.
Yeah, and we'll get to nutrition in a moment about what's advisable for children who are dealing with this condition. But once the child has been diagnosed, what does treatment usually involve? Especially because sometimes you've got parents who say, we've tried this medication and this child still gets lots of seizures. So is there a specific medication that you start with the children? Are there options that are available? Maybe should one work and not the other?
Yes, so there's a couple of options that are there, like I mentioned, depending on the age and the type of the seizure, and also depending on the cause. So we usually tailor-make. There are standard sort of protocols of treatment that will start the child with. And then if maybe one agent doesn't work, sometimes you end up with children that may need more than one agent. So there's newer agents that have been developed for children. But the best thing in terms of what works for your child or what doesn't entails that you actually see a health professional like a pediatrician or even a neurologist, a pediatric neurologist or a pediatric neurodevelopmental specialist. Because like I said, depending on the cause and the age, certain medication will work for the child and some will not, especially the more complicated ones, like for example, the children with genetic causes. But sometimes what we find is that the treatment itself is not adequate for the child's age. For example, children grow rapidly. They get growth spurts every now and then. So being in regular contact with your doctor, they'll be able to monitor your levels of the blood. Most of the drugs are able to monitor the blood levels just to see that is it actually sufficient for this child or not. And sometimes when you are on treatment and you keep having seizures, it might be that you're actually experiencing side effects of that drug. So then your doctor will be able to sort of maybe either change that medication or, alter your dose depending on your need. Yeah.
Okay. And then you mentioned nutrition earlier on. What's advisable to be part of a nutrition of a child that's got this condition?
So essentially what we advocate for is a well-balanced diet, for children in general. And then when they have seizures, there are particular seizure types where maybe the patients may be advised to maybe go on a ketogenic diet. Some will have, for example, carnitine deficiencies where you just then need to supplement the carnitine in their diet. But generally, we advocate for, a well-balanced diet.
Yeah. All right. I've got some messages coming through from some parents who are sharing their experiences. Some have got questions as well. So we'll go to them after the break. It's 15 minutes now before 12 o'clock. If you have a child that has epilepsy, how have you managing that? And if you have tried some medication, maybe they're not working, you've got questions around how to better manage your child's epilepsy, give us a call right now or send a WhatsApp voice note. 011-883-0702 is the number to dial. 072-702-1702 is where you can send your WhatsApp messages.
Bongani Bingwa, 702 Breakfast.
Weekday mornings, 6 to 9.
City Power say they are under siege. Armed Zamazamas are ripping these cables out of tunnels like it's gold, leaving Joburg in the dark. Quite literally, the damage in millions is often not repaired. Officials are calling it a sabotage crisis. Over 170 arrests have been made this year alone, but the looting hasn't stopped. And City Power says they're being outgunned, outmanned. You've got to ask the question, who's really in control of Joburg's power grid?
Bongani Bingwa, 6 to 9.
On 702.
Formulated from 5,000-year-old Ayurvedic wisdom, refined through decades of modern science. For 95 years, Himalaya Wellness has been the trusted name in herbal care, caring for families in more than 100 countries around the world. Our clinically studied natural formulations, pure herbs, and personal care products are designed to support your health, skin, smile, and your baby's well-being. Bring the healing power of nature into your home. Himalaya Wellness. Live well, live herbal.
Diabetes has become the leading cause of deaths in South Africa. Every hour, at least 3 people die of diabetes in this country. This means that in a year, we lose more than 30,000 people to this dreaded disease. This is a silent pandemic which requires active participation by all of us. You may be asking, what can I do as an individual? Limit intake of foods and drinks high in sugar and be physically active. Eat right for a better life. Foods high in sugar, fat and salt can lead to obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease and certain cancers. This message is brought to you by the National Department of Health.
Close your eyes. Taste the mist from the Sunny Pass waterfall. Feel the calm beneath the waves in Scottsboro. See the giants in East London. Breathe in the air of the Knysna Forest. Hear the roar of adventure in White River. 5 premier resorts, 5 senses, 5 all-inclusive escapes. Visit premierhotels.co.za for T's and C's and bookings.
The Money Show.
Weekday evenings at 6.
Martin Slabbert is the CEO at Prime Capital. You've slammed this offer from Hyprop. It does give current mass shareholders certain options. What do you believe is wrong with this offer?
The offer is really a request from shareholders to grant Hyprop with options as opposed to making an offer to acquire their shares. The usual market practice with making offers are that the offers will remain open for acceptance after they become unconditional.
The Money Show
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show with Stephen Curtis is brought to you by Absa Corporate and Investment Bank, a leading Pan-African bank and proud sponsor of the African Blockchain Report 2024. Absa is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
702.
Health and
12
Wellness.
minutes before 12 o'clock, we are understanding epilepsy in children this morning on our health and wellness feature with Dr. Futhi Matlase, who is a pediatrician. I want to take your calls, though, now on 011-883-0702, WhatsApps as well. Let's start with Humeria, who's calling us from Lenasia. Humeria, good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm all right, thank you. Go ahead.
Good, thanks. So I have an 8-year-old little girl. She was diagnosed with epilepsy at the age of 2. She was then put on medication, several medications which did not help her. Medications such as Apolam and Ketra. She was then put on Stoplap. So for the past 4 years, her epilepsy was controlled on Stoplap. And then suddenly, about a few months ago, the epilepsy started again. So she's currently on Stoplap and lamotrigine. It's been controlled. But my question is, the medication she was on, her epilepsy was controlled for 4 years. Why suddenly the episodes appeared again?
Oh, okay. And what was the time? So you said he's 8 years old now, right?
She's currently 8 years.
She's 8, okay. And then when did they come back after having tried initially the medication?
So she was epilepsy free for 4 years on Stoplap.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Humeria, thank you so much. Yeah, Dr. Matlase?
Hi, Samaria. So there are several reasons why this may happen. So one, it could be, like I mentioned, children, the brain is still growing, but also there may be other, as the child is growing, there may be other changes as well, especially if it's a girl. And remember, around 8, 9, 10, some will even be going into puberty or adolescence, which we're seeing puberty, because we're seeing it quite earlier now. So those are some of the reasons why the medication that she was on may suddenly stop working. But, usually it's better to actually have a discussion with your neurologist or your pediatrician to just have a look and see. I'm actually glad that now, they've managed to find a combination that actually works for the child, because at the end of the day, that's what you need, to find what works for the child at that time.
Okay. Thank you for that, Dr. Futhi. Let's go to some messages here on the WhatsApp line. Someone says, Clement, my child was born prematurely, so he has this epilepsy. I have tried everything. I don't know what to do anymore. Nothing works. What's the best way to manage it? And which doctor can you suggest? So, Dr. Matlase, is there a specialist that you would advise this listener to go to? Must you go to a pediatrician? Do you go to a normal doctor? Who's best to assist you, a parent who's got a child who's been struggling with this?
So I would say a pediatric neurologist would actually be the best doctor to see, or a pediatric neurodevelopmental specialist. But unfortunately, we have so few, and you might find that their appointment times are maybe 3 months or 6 months apart. So then your first contact would be a pediatrician, just to sort of, work out what they're currently on, what they've been on. And, sometimes while even waiting for that appointment, the pediatrician is able to liaise with the pediatric neurologist as to what, can be tailored for that child while waiting for the appointment.
Okay. And then Moyisi on Twitter says, Clement, my daughter had a first seizure in her sleep at 14 years. Second, 6 months later, she was put on Keppra, where we noticed regular episodes all in her sleep. and severe mood swings as well. Neurologist kept increasing dosage until we decided to take her off meds. It's now worsening. We're now 45 days without that medication since. So, yeah, the suggestion I'm getting from this listener is that when the dosages were being increased, it was just worsening, and that's why they've decided to take her off the meds. Is that the best thing to do?
Actually, no, that's not ideal, but I can understand, as a parent, you're frustrated, you're seeking help, and the person that you're in contact with, has solutions, but they just don't seem to be working for your child. I prefer that, they always go back to the doctor to say, we've increased doses, what are the options? Like I mentioned, there are several medications that this child can be on, and also, in terms of testing, we're not sure if they've done other testings, because sometimes, there are several tests that you need to do, from blood work to even an EEG, and also for a brain scan, just to see. That might give other clues to, for this child, particularly to say, why is the child specifically continuing to have seizures despite being on treatment and despite the dose being optimized? Because usually when we're increasing the dose, it's more to optimize the dose and see if that will work or not. And if that doesn't work, there are other agents. Some children will need double agents, some even more than one agent. And depending on where the source is, for example, if it's just from one side of the brain and nothing is controlling the seizures, you've been on multiple drugs, sometimes there is actually a surgical procedure where they end up just removing that part of the brain. If, the sole source of the seizures is that part of the brain. But I understand the frustration, and sometimes you just, want to let go and not use treatment that you see is clearly not working. Would advise the mom to, either go back to the doctor or seek a second opinion. I mean, sometimes, we, depending on where you're going, like, if you're a GP or a pediatrician or wherever that you go, you might find that you're going to someone who's not that well experienced in seizure management, or, that's all they know, that's all the only drug that they know. So sometimes seeking a second opinion is also important.
And just lastly, someone is asking about what to do when the child is experiencing the seizure. I've seen someone who experiences seizures that gets really terrifying. You just don't know what to do. What's your advice to parents who witness that? What can they do?
Okay, so the main thing is, we always say remain calm. Even if you do like a basic life support, they say remain calm. But if it's your own child, it becomes very, distressing. But the main thing is that if, you see that they're falling or they've actually fallen, you just need to see, remove any objects that may be dangerous. Like, for example, if they're near a pool or, the sharp objects around. So you lay them on their left side preferably. And then if the seizure is continuing, you can also lay maybe something soft under their head so that they don't keep bumping themselves. The main thing is to try to protect them from the injury. And then, one person can time the seizure. If there's another person, the other person can call for help, like for an ambulance or something like that. What not to do is do not restrain them and don't put anything in their mouth. And also don't leave them alone. Like I mentioned, you need to, the positioning, for example, sometimes you find that there's froth in the mouth.
Yeah.
So if you position them lying up, they may choke on that saliva. But if they're on their side, at least the saliva can come out. Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Afuti Mahlase, a pediatrician, thank you so much for guiding us through such an important conversation.
Aubrey Masango.
Weekday evenings,
8 to midnight.
Wasn't it interesting that Minister Nkabane publicized her resignation letter just hours before we got to know that she had actually been fired? She probably got a phone call from the president to say, man, hey, Comrade Nkabane, man, hey, you can see, man, hey. Bad, man. We must be seen to apply principle universally and consistently, my sister. And therefore, I've decided, in lieu of matters that are taking place at the moment, at this present juncture, at all material times.
Aubrey Masango.
8 to midnight on 702.
702.
Corporates That Care promotes and encourages corporate leaders and all citizens to walk the talk for a better South Africa. Catch Corporates That Care this Wednesday at 10 to 9 featuring Hashes. Their CEO, Richard Hash, will be in conversation with Bongani Bingwa. So join us every Wednesday as we highlight the efforts of companies and brands dedicated to building our country. Corporates That Care is a Prime Media Cares initiative with 702 and Prime Media Outdoor. 702. Let's walk the talk and make a difference together.
Rise to the challenge in Betway's Climb and Conquer with 50 million rand in prizes to be won, including 8 brand new cars. Climb our leaderboards until 27 July with bets on sports, slots, table, crash games, and more. Make the weekly top 10 at any point for a chance to drive away in a VW Polo, Toyota Hilux Double Cab, or High Ace. Plus, weekly leaderboard winners will earn a guaranteed 100,000 rand cash. Only at Betway. Terms and conditions apply. Licensed and regulated by the Western Cape Gambling and Racing Board. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to participate. For gambling counseling, call SARGF on 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp 076 675 0710.
It all starts with FNB Private. With secure, easy payments for a hassle-free overseas holiday. Tap, swipe, or go digital with your FNB Visa cards. Earn rewards when using your FNB credit card or global account debit and virtual card. You can even fund your global account on the FNB app while traveling. Make the most of every moment. Unlock invaluable with FNB Private. Help changes everything. FNB, a division of First Rand Bank Limited, an authorized FSP and credit provider. TCs, earn rules and limits apply.
Coming up
On the Midday Report
with Mandy Wiener.
Mandy, how you doing?
I'm here.
How you, Wendy?
Wendy Mina. You haven't done that in a long time, eh?
Welcome back, Wendy Mina. What's coming up on the Midday Report?
The courts have dismissed the NPA's appeal on the Omatoso case. We'll get reaction to that. Suspect arrested for the murder of the Ekurhuleni chief auditor. A second person being hunted as well.
That's great. I'm happy to hear that. I mean, I was so sad by the story of this gentleman.
Terrible. And the conversation you've been having around whistleblowers, of course, so relevant in our current climate. We'll unpack the complex web around the arrest of a Joburg businessman, the assassins, DJ Somebody, Kat Matlala, Kenny Kunene in the picture now as well. The whole thing is just, I mean, you can't make this stuff up.
You have to write another book about all
No,
of
Jeff
this.
Wicks can do it. It's okay. It's okay. I have other problems. We'll get response to the appointment of Buti Manamela as the Higher Education Minister, and we'll find out more about the lone single Neisner elephant that was spotted at the weekend.
All right, that's the Midday Report with Mandy Wiener. I'll be back tomorrow between 9 and 12. Have a beautiful day, friends. Bye-bye.
This is EWN.
Good afternoon. I'm Mbali Dlamini. Parliament's portfolio committees on police as well as justice and constitutional development have adopted a draft report into the allegations made by KZN Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. Earlier this month, Mkhwanazi presented several damning allegations of corruption and collusion against police top brass and the judicial cluster in Gauteng. Last week, Parliament's committees met to deliberate on the allegations made by Mkhwanazi. This morning, they now adopted a draft report recommending that an ad hoc committee be established to further investigate the allegations. Portfolio Committee Chairperson on Police, Ian Cameron.
Our purpose is to guide Parliament as to what the remedy is that we recommend as committees to handle the matter.
Let's stay in Parliament. Some political parties still want fired Higher Education Minister Nobuhle Nkabane to account for the Sector Education and Training Authority board selection scandal. Nkabane was set to appear before the Higher Education Portfolio Committee